possible. Yeah, thanks Google for taking away Hangouts, so it's really hard to figure out how to do this. I am really sorry. And you guys can't even hear me anyway. This is ridiculous. Default. Possible. Oh my gosh. Yeah, awesome. Thanks Google for taking away Hangouts, so awesome. It's really hard to figure out how to do this. I am really sorry. And you guys can't even hear me anyway. Okay. Can you hear me now? Hang on. Default. Possible. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thanks Google for taking away Hangouts, so it's really hard to figure out how to do this. I am really sorry. And you guys can't even hear me anyway. Okay. Can you hear me now? Hang on. All right. All right. Can you hear me now? Okay, it's replaying the same thing over and over again. Okay, I had to mute my own chat. So, can you guys hear me now? Oh my God. Okay, what about right now? I'm saying the word testing, testing. Can you repeat the word testing? You can hear me now, right? Testing, testing. Can anyone type testing? Just so I know, before I unplug this headset, because I did have some sound without the headset plugged in. Whew. Okay. So, okay, that means okay, you can hear me, right? Okay, thank you. All right. So I was actually talking to you guys as soon as I opened up the live stream, and I really legitimately thought you guys could hear me saying, hi, Tank, hi, Ronnie, hi, Pooh Bear, hi, Creepy Clown Girl. I was saying hi to everyone, and no one could hear me. Dang it. I don't know if anyone does live streams or has any experience with them, but there's a little bit of a complicated process into setting up the Streamlabs OBS, and if you don't have the right settings on there, it doesn't work, but you don't know that until you go live, which is fantastic, by the way. Anyways, I'm going to say hi to everybody since I can see everyone that's in here now. How are you guys doing? You guys doing good? Into setting up the Streamlabs. Okay, there we go. I like to look at it while it's happening too, so I can see what's going on. Anyways, you guys were asking where I've been, and I had explained that I had, let's see, I did some stories in March, and right before that I had switched jobs, and then right after that I got COVID. So I didn't end up in the hospital. One of the lucky ones, I guess. But if you can hear my, I do get winded, and it is still hard to breathe, and I still don't feel 100%. And that's where I've been. I get really tired now still, and it's not fun. And I did explain that, but you guys couldn't hear me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's see here. I'm going to go back and say hi, Tank. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Pooh Bear. Hi, Creepy Clown Girl. Hi, Element. Who else is here? Dave, hello. Did I say hi, Ronnie? Hi, Phantom Zone. Let's see here. Anybody else did I miss anybody? Let's see in here. Okay. Yeah, Streamlabs is a pain in the butt. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing good. I did read an entire story, and you guys couldn't hear me. I was explaining that I was sitting here talking because if no one chats back, then I'm thinking, okay, they don't want to type anything, so I just keep talking to entertain. So I thought you guys were just like waiting for me to read, so I started reading, and then no one could hear me, and I didn't even know it until you guys said, "Hey, hey, Gino, hello." I started reading it, and then you guys were like, "Is there a mic problem?" Wow. All right, so I'm going to go back in time and tell you that I had started another video editing thing, and there's a learning curve to it. And basically, long story short, that stole all my time to make a video for today. So last minute, I'm like, I should just live stream. And but that's another reason why I don't like to live stream, because there's a lot of hiccups with the Streamlabs. I know that very technical people have no issues with it, but you have to make sure every single box is checked, which I obviously didn't do. Anyway, so today I was going to make a video featuring a new author that I found on Reddit named Bloody Spaghetti. But I did not have the time. He's got tons and tons of stories. And I feel like when someone creates something from nothing and then gives you permission to utilize that story, that you should give it the credit that it deserves by, taking the time and making a really good video for it. And I did not have the time for that. However, I do want to make sure he gets some credit, gets one of his stories read. And then the next thing I do, I will make a video with his stories. And then I also picked out a bunch of other stories for us to read and was asking you guys if you had any requests, and then I didn't see any requests, and now I know why I didn't see any requests. Jeez. All right. Let's see here. Do you guys have any requests? Which I did ask, but you couldn't hear me. So, yeah. If you have any requests, feel free to drop them and let me know. I found a list of stories. We're going to read Mara first, and then I've got teachers reveal their most disturbing day at school, late night convenience store workers share their creepiest customer stories, creepy stories from psych ward workers, and 911 dispatchers describe the creepiest call they've ever had. So if you guys have any requests, drop them in the chat, and I'll try to find something for that. Some issues make for funny instances. Yeah. Hilarious. There's those lucky people in the world that they just get on a bike and they ride it. And there's other people that get on the bike and they fall down and repeatedly, literally. I think it was last summer, my husband and I went for a bike ride. I used to ride a bike, no hands, all over my neighborhood when I was a kid. And I hadn't ridden a bike in forever. So my husband and I, sorry, in case you didn't notice, I get distracted easily. Squirrel, there was some that used to come here and say that. I don't know if they had time to come today. Anyway, long story short, we go for a bike ride, and my shoelace was untied and I didn't know it. And it got wrapped up in the chain. And, literally, I'm going down a hill and then my bike just stops, but I can't take my leg away from the bike, and I just literally stopped and then just fell on the ground, in slow motion, left. But I couldn't even get away from the bike because my shoe was tied really tight. It was double knotted, but the double knotted part came out, so I couldn't get my foot even out of the shoe that was wrapped around this. Oh my God, it was a mess. My husband turns around and laughs and comes and unwraps my leg and shoelace from the bike. But if he hadn't been with me and I did that, then I would probably get hit by a car. Weeble wobble, but they don't stay down. Squirrel. Yeah, I know it. Oh my gosh. Hello, Element. Hello. If you have any requests, I will try to look something up, but I did hear the list, right? And then we're going to read Mara here real quick. I did already read it, but you guys couldn't hear me because the audio wasn't working. So there's that. Ooh. I'm in my living room, so you're going to hear our road is one of those roads that people go down when it's nice outside. Today we had 30 bikers go down our road because it's a super long It's a super long road once you get out of town from our house, but you have to go past our house to get to the road. So, anyways, again, another distraction. And you're going to hear my dog pacing because she's like bored. So, you might hear her bark too. So, anyway, you guys can hear me, right? Before I start reading this, can anybody give me one thumbs up before I start reading this and know that you guys can hear me? My God, I can't believe that. I was wondering why no one was responding when I was reading that and saying stuff to you guys. Hopefully you can still hear me. Oh my God. Now I'm worried. Oh no. You guys can hear me, right? Oh, thank you, Tank. Thank you. All right, I'm going to read Mara. Again, Bloody Spaghetti has a bunch of stuff on Reddit. I will make sure that their link to their Reddit is in the comment section. He has a bunch of, he or she, I'm not sure, and I'm not sure what their pronouns are. Don't want to be insensitive. But Bloody Spaghetti is the author's name, and the name of this story is Mara. And then after that, we'll get into some other stories. If you guys have any requests, put them in the chat. And then if you have any links to something that you want me to take a look at or read, feel free to drop that link in the chat and I'll take a look at it too. Okay? All right, here we go. Here's Mara. And sorry if I sound like I'm having a hard time breathing. It's because I am. So, yeah. Sorry about that. Maybe we can find a mucus story or something afterwards. Oh, this is kind of related actually. So anyway, Mara. We met nearly 3 years ago. It was love at first sight. The moment we laid eyes on each other, we knew, I knew, this was it. This is the one. She knew it too. She knew the universe had intended for us to be with each other, as did I. I saw it in her cold blue eyes. They lit up. An icy fire burned in them. One thing led to another, and we were in each other's arms. It was like nothing I had experienced before. The spark of passion kept us glued to one another. We couldn't keep our hands off of each other. Sparks flew, clothes flew. Other things flew everywhere. It was the best I had ever had. And I didn't even know her name. Didn't care. She didn't care either. It was as if we were solely interested in one thing. We didn't exchange names until the 7th night of copulation. Her name is Mara, and this was just the beginning. We met every night, only at night. She came over to my small apartment every single night, right after sunset. Her red dresses danced around her pale skin as she stood at the frame of my bedroom. She was enticingly beautiful and full of charm. Her long dark hair flowed like black flames, swaying softly between her slender fingers. She always left in the morning, and I never bothered asking why. We hardly ever spoke with words. It was always moanings, sighs, screams of pleasure, and shrieks of ecstasy. Every night when she was with me, I felt invincible, like a god among men. Whenever night gave way to morning, she left my bed. I felt drained, exhausted, completely spent. About a month after our initial interaction, I noticed something about myself. A cough that wouldn't go away. During the day, I'd suffer from terrible bouts of coughing. Painful, violent. My bronchioles and lungs would crack and rasp because of an assault by mysterious irritants. When Mara would come for another round of lovemaking, though, the cough would disappear, and I'd feel this Herculean strength and vigor once more. Over time, my cough got worse. Dry cough turned wet. Fatigue took over my days. I became constantly exhausted, beyond what was normal for me. Too lethargic to get out of bed. I'd gas out doing nothing. Dizziness and fevers started taking control of my daily routines. My appetite had all but disappeared. I barely ate. I barely did anything. My body was slowly consuming itself from the inside. None of that persisted with nightfall. I started living solely for the nights. Mara would come and take me to a world of ecstasy. The moment her icy hands ran across my chest, a fire burned inside of my heart, reigniting my life. Her lust was keeping me alive. Her lust was keeping me sane. The feeling of her saliva traveling down my pipes is exhilarating. The thrill I get whenever our bodies connect. Merely seeing the radiance of that woman, that goddess of mine, was enough to induce mental pleasure equal to nothing else. The first time I coughed blood was right before nightfall, right before she showed up. A fire cruised across as she crawled on top of me, pinning me down. Her eyes interlocked with mine, and she licked the fresh blood right off of my dry lips. Oh God, the feeling it gave me. Indescribable. A mixture of fire and ice. Terrible crackling pain in my chest. Mind-bending sensation down below. As time passed, I became consumed by my illness. I became a pathetic husk of a man whenever my woman, my Mara, wasn't around. A blood-spitting parody of Prometheus chained to his bed, punished by God for his sinful love for an angelic being. In her presence, I'm an Adonis personified. I am nearly completely immobile when the rays of the sun violate the sanctity of my room. When the moonlight wrestles control from the sun, however, I feel alive again. As time passed, I felt myself shrivel down, shrink, and dry out under the weight of Earth's gravity. Mara grew more and more radiant with each passing night. Her beauty is unmatched. She is perfection. Nowadays, I barely do anything. I can hardly get out of my bed. She takes control of everything. I just enjoy the experience. I can't do much. My body's too weak. I'm just glad she still wants me. I fear the end is near. I think I died once underneath her. I saw the bright light, heard angels singing, felt myself rising out of my burning body, felt the pain go away. Unearthly calm surrounded me. She pulled me back to the world. Coming back down hurt so badly I screamed, as if some sort of malevolent force was trying to tear my heart out. I thrashed and withered beneath Mara, overcome by the infernal agony that burned my torso. Dust spilled out of my throat, and white-hot knives penetrated my lungs. For a moment I couldn't see Mara. She wasn't there anymore. I was all alone. All alone in the cold, unforgiving darkness. There was nothing at all, just the moon and I. My chest seized up as I pulled myself into a sitting position, calling out my lover's name. A lump grew at the back of my neck, slowly suffocating me before forcing itself out of my mouth. A bloody lump. Fear slowly replaced the pain. A paralyzing thunderbolt traveled across every nerve. It had paralyzed me as my heartbeat sounded more and more like demon drums pounding inside of my head. I felt the urge to scream Mara's name into the abyss, but only a gurgle came out. I fell to my bed as the chills of my feverish muscles released me from the paralyzing effects of my paranoia. My eyes felt heavy, so I closed them. My mind started going blank. Everything was turning completely dark and cold, as if I was falling into a black hole. Not the feeling of falling asleep. Something different about it. Something darker. Another tease of the Grim Reaper, perhaps. The pleasant sensation of her cold skin rubbing against my burning body caressed my mind, and I let out a sigh of relief. I was too sore to even open my eyes to look at her. I was just glad my angelic lover was back. Her presence washed away all the pain and all the torment. She had replaced all of that with heavenly pleasure the moment I felt her force me inside of her again. Her love is Truly to die for. You guys have to let me know what you think about that one. Squirrels. Cute, cute, cute. What'd you guys think of that one? Bloody Spaghetti is a pretty talented writer, I think. You guys still there? Started streaming 27 minutes ago. Let me see here. Check it on something else. I just keep making sure that it's actually streaming. Is it still happening? You guys were asking where Sorry, I have it playing on something else and it was stuck on another thing. So you guys are still there, right? Everyone's still there? 7 watching now. Okay. I have an extreme paranoia that this thing will just like turn off and I won't know it. I'll just be, hey, Laura. Anybody else is here that I didn't talk to? I have to go. I guess I need to go up and see. Calm down, me. So, yes, it's happening. Good. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh. I wish there was some sort of alert that I would get if it disconnected, but the only way is for me to like see it after I've been talking for 5 minutes or longer, apparently. Yeah, you missed the whole discovery of my brain realizing that it wasn't working. I was kind of hoping Bloody Spaghetti would come and chat with you guys, but I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get a video out or live stream at all, so yep. I'm not the technical wizard that some people are on the computer, so sometimes it's not that easy to know that the audio's not working. Awesome. Okay. We're going to read all these, but I'm going to let you guys pick which one you want first. We've got teachers reveal their most disturbing day at school. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to read them all, but you guys can pick the one that you want first. So, number 1 is teachers reveal their most disturbing day at school. 2 is late night convenience store workers share their creepiest customer stories. Number 3 would be creepy stories from the psych ward workers. Number 4, 9/11 dispatchers describe the creepiest calls they've ever had. Yeah, no one is here. There's 9 people watching. That's not no one. Some people asked where I've been, and if you missed it, I got COVID. I switched jobs, and then I got COVID like right after I did that. So if you hear me like, it's because I'm, and it's humid here today. So I see 1 for psych ward. I don't see anybody else voting, so that might win it right there. We might do that one first. And I don't know if any of you guys had COVID or have had COVID. I didn't end up in the hospital. One of the lucky ones. I can only imagine what that feels like if you do or did end up in the hospital. 1 or 4, number 2. Okay. So I've got 1 vote for each one. 3 because psych wards are nuts, and 2 because I used to be a night convenience store clerk. Well, I don't know if I'm okay. It's exhausting doing anything, but I had to get my first dose of the vaccine, and I'll get my other one in about another week, I think, just because if I got it again, I'm pretty sure I would be completely screwed. So yeah, don't want that to happen. Anywho, on with, okay, we've got several votes for number 1. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, and 1 and 2 for 3. So yeah, I'm glad. I don't want anybody to get it. It's terrible. And plus, I've got a couple of family members that are immunocompromised, and they really can't be exposed to it. Not that I can prevent the entire world from giving it to them, but I don't want to be the person that gives it to them, and then I would have to live with that forever. So if I got to live. Anyways, we came here for the darkness, didn't we? And that's what I'm going to get to deliver. All right, let's see. All right, so I see 1, 2, 3. We're going to go with teachers, and then we'll go to psych ward. How about that? And then we'll do them in a weird order. So we'll do teachers because that seemed to get the most votes. Oh, shoot. Let me see here. I saved it on my iPad so it would be easier to go to the links. We'll see if that works. Geez, what else can I make harder than it needs to be for myself? Oh, goodness. All right, teachers reveal their most disturbing day at school. Plus, I put it on my iPad instead of my laptop where I'm streaming. Whew. Because it seems to like really slow down my computer because of all the ads. Like, the ads are insane, but for some reason you don't see as many ads if you're on an iPad. I don't know if it's the same if like you have like what's the freaking Apple computer called? Bring on the darkness. Mwahaha. All right. If you just tuned in here, anyone that's new and tuned in, this is not for children, so get out. Parents, you are responsible for your children's listening and viewing. I am not. Bye-bye. All right. Just roll the dice or something. Anyways, teachers reveal their most disturbing day at school. Again, you came here for the darkness, did you not? And the first one is pretty gruesome. So, yeah, this is bad. Do you want me to read you the title for this one before I just dive into it? The title of the first one is Student Kicks Teacher's Pregnant Stomach. Yeah. Apple computers are Mac or MacBooks. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how the ads are like they're not pop-ups, so of course people that make ads made a better way to annoy the crap out of you. Like if you go to their blog, example, if you look up a recipe and then it tells you that they were hiking the mountains in Italy and stumbled upon this village that has 45-year-old cheese, and that's how they discovered how to make their own homemade Cheetos. Like, it takes you like 7 pages to get to the recipe. Let's go. I'm ready. Excuse me, sir. You didn't even tell us what kind of sandwich you got for us. Anyways. Ooh, all right. Student kicks teacher's pregnant stomach. Ugh. My chemistry teacher was pregnant in her 3rd trimester. At least I think she was. She was pretty big and looked like she was going to pop. One day, that teacher and this biatch of a student got into an argument because the student was caught being on her phone. But she kept insisting that she didn't have her phone out. Everyone knew she was lying since we all saw it. The student started cussing, slamming everything around, so the teacher called the hall monitors to come escort her out. But before the hall monitors could come, the student got up and kicked the teacher in the stomach. Everyone in the room just let out a giant gasp, and we were all stunned. I was in the front and was frozen in my seat for a couple of seconds. The student then walked out like she owned the world, and some students, including me, all ran to the teacher and tried to help her. But the hall monitor came, and soon we were told to back away. We all got to go home early that day. The teacher had to be put on bed rest, and the baby was fine when he was born. I don't think charges were ever made, but the student was kicked out of school. Even the full-time jerks in the class agreed that she went too far. Too far. Oh my God. Cheesesteak, mozzarella sticks, and boneless wings. How dare you, sir? How dare you? If you're watching this back, Ronnie left and got snacks for everyone, no one but himself. So thanks. Thanks, Ronnie. Raise your hand if you have an air fryer. This next one is same category. Heartless student mocks teacher for having a miscarriage. Absolute worst thing I've ever heard was my teacher told me about a group of kids that bullied her teacher. The teacher had a miscarriage, a stillborn after being pregnant, and then when she came back from that experience, she found a baby with a noose around its neck on the desk. She left and never came back. Oh my God. Good Lord. So if anyone's contemplating becoming a teacher, maybe don't listen to these ones. It doesn't say. So the first story, it says my chemistry teacher. So I'm thinking that's got to be at least high school. And then the next one, it doesn't say. This next one says students poisoned their unsuspecting teacher. This one says I was in middle school. A girl in my class slipped rat poison into the teacher's coffee when she was out of the room. The teacher was rushed to the hospital pretty quickly and lived but never came back to the school. The girl was expelled, rightfully so, after a few people in the class admitted to seeing her put the poison in. The ones that came forward were suspended for a long time for not telling anyone until after. Good. I have no idea what happened to the girl who did it. She was only 12. What a friggin' monster. She was only 12, so there probably wasn't much punishment. She was the quiet, nerdy kid, too. The last person you'd ever suspect. Okay, first of all, whenever you say something like, that's the last person I'd suspect, that's always the first person you should suspect. Just going forward. I've been watching a lot of detective shows lately, specifically Lucifer. Like, I just stumbled upon that show. If anyone's watched that, raise their hand. I'm almost done with season 5, and I can't wait till season 6. I've been binge watching that show for days. Anyways, yeah, that's terrible. My God. Again, if you're starting, thinking about being a teacher, maybe come back later. Jesus. Also, again, if you're new here or a child, this is not for children and parents. I am not responsible for what your children are listening to. Moving on. Mom pranks teacher with laxative cookies. Teacher shares them with the entire class. In a case that would rank amongst the most immature parenting decisions of all time, a woman from New Portland, Maine, conspired with her daughter and her daughter's friends to bake a batch of cookies stuffed with laxatives in a scheme to prank her daughter's teacher. They crushed up X-Lax pills, stirred them into the mix, and left the cookies on the teacher's desk with a note saying, "We made these cookies especially for you. Hope you enjoy them." That's when it all backfired. Being a generous, thoughtful person, the teacher shared the cookies with the entire class, unintentionally making anyone who ate one incredibly sick. What's really disturbing to think about, though, is that if a single cookie contained enough laxatives to make someone sick, their intention was for the teacher to eat all of the cookies by herself, which would have led to a serious medical emergency. The mom responsible for the prank was sentenced to 50 hours of community service. Good. Think about that, ex-laxers. Which, honestly, who has not ever thought about that? Like, how awesome. Oh, one of my friends slipped LSD into his teacher's coffee. Oh my God, did he go to jail? It's the smart, quiet ones. They're the ones that are going to murder. It's either the compulsive, crazy, loud ones or the really smart, quiet ones. They're the ones that are doing all the research. Come on. I mean, if you're going to give someone laced cookies, at least give them some weed cookies or something. Come on. At least let them enjoy their day and relax. They're teachers. They're already distressed. Come on. Again, if you're just tuning in and you're thinking about becoming a teacher, you might want to tune out for a minute. Also, if you're a child, get the hell out of here. These stories are not for you. And parents, I'm not responsible for what your kids are watching or listening to. You are. If they're listening to this, you are a terrible parent. I just want you to know that. Anyway, this one's short. Kindergartner draws a really disturbing picture. A little girl in kindergartner drew a picture of herself, then colored the entire page red. When I asked why she colored everything red, the kid said, "That's what I'm going to look like when I blow myself up." Oh my God. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Kid injures 60-year-old teacher. I wasn't in the class, but my friend was. What happened was that there was this old white teacher about 60 years old. Now, remember, these are just people, regular people. These are not authors writing these stories, so they're worded weird, and I'm just going to read them as they're written, so sorry in advance. We'll call him Mr. M for this story. Mr. M told a student to be quiet because he kept interrupting the class and was wandering around the room constantly. The student kept talking back to Mr. M. gave the student a warning that he was going to get a referral. I mean, anyway. The student then attacked the teacher by grabbing his tie and choking him. Then the student started to hit the 60-year-old teacher and slammed his head on the corner of the table. Some of the other low-life waste of space students were recording and then egging him on. In the video, you could see a couple of students running outside the classroom. Ooh, that's another motorcycle. Anyway, minutes later, when Mr. M is unconscious, the bastard was still beating on him. The hall monitor came and the student was taken into custody. Rumors went around the school that he did it on purpose to get back into juvie. Wow. It'd be nice if there were like updates to these, but I mean, these are pretty much anonymous people here. Smart, quiet ones still plot over and over for sure. Oh my gosh. I don't know if anybody's got TikTok, but I'm like obsessed with TikTok. And there's a lot of people that, like, if you want to, like, what's something that you know that feels illegal to know? And this girl's like, if you're going to bury a body, bury it vertically, not horizontally, and then bury an animal on top of that, or an endangered plant, because then it's illegal to dig it up. But if you bury an animal on top of the body, the cadaver dogs are just gonna, like, they're gonna dig up the dead animal and they're not gonna keep going. But, you know, at this point, I'm thinking that they probably would. I guess it just depends on how deep you're gonna go. And I always put lime in there. Anyways, on to the next story. Obviously, I cannot commit murder because this is now on a live stream, and fingers would definitely point to me. Anyway. Let's see. This one's titled "Kids Blow Up the Groundskeeper's Car." Wow. My friend's dad was a groundskeeper, but everyone hated him because he always busted the younger kids for going out to lunch and handed out a lot of detentions. I mean, why does the groundskeeper care? Anyway, one night a couple of guys started his van on fire and it blew up. What the fuck? He wasn't that nice, but he was just doing his job. Like, why are you making the groundskeeper bust kids? Anyway, he lost a lot of personal items in the van. He was so upset he quit, and their family didn't have much money as it was. It was horrible, and my friend transferred schools because of it. Like, yeah, wow. Feed to the pigs crushed up. Hey, yeah. Didn't you ever watch my, the serial, was it Ed, not Ed Gein, it was another one, the pig farmer guy. I did that story of him, and I inserted the video, part of him in jail when he was confessing to his cellmate that was an undercover cop. Did you guys watch all of my serial killer Saturdays? Those are all getting, age restricted. They keep sending me an email one by one for my serial killer Saturdays, telling me that they're age restricting them. So awesome. Okay. Student locks teacher inside classroom after fire alarm goes off. Again, if you're just tuning in and you're thinking about becoming a teacher, please come back in a little bit when we're done reading these. I don't want to discourage anyone from becoming a teacher. And again, ooh, I'm sorry, kitty. I just bonked my kitty in the face with my phone. If you're a child, get the hell out of here. This is not for children. And if you're a parent who's mad about some scary stories on the internet and you're letting your child listen to this, you're a terrible parent. Moving on. Students lock teacher inside classroom after fire alarm goes off. One day we had a fire alarm, a real one. This happened often at this particular school. One student was the last student out of the room, and when he left, he laughed in my face and slammed the door shut. He stood outside holding the doorknob so I couldn't get out. He wrenched or jacked the knob so hard that once he fled the building, the doorknob wouldn't work anymore. I was trapped in my classroom with the fire alarm going off, and I couldn't call anyone to let me out because they had all gone outside with the students. So I sat there with my fingers in my ears. The fire alarm was very loud for about an hour. Eventually I heard voices outside. It was the firefighters responding to the call. I explained the situation through the door, and they had all had a good laugh, and then they brought a custodian in to jimmy the door open. That was the worst day of my teaching career, And then, of course, the kids mocked me for it for weeks afterward. The kid was definitely the worst in terms of classroom behavior. Wow. Awesome. Miss Serial Killer Saturdays. Yeah, me too. I think we'd have to do like, I'd have to figure out how to put together like a video and have it play in the background like that Smoky Mountain scene is right now. And then talk about it during a live stream. I don't know if it could stay up or not. I just have to like not monetize it at all. Those are a lot of work because it requires, I double check my facts. It's a lot of pictures to put together. It's a lot of facts to go through. Side note, I stumbled onto there was if you have like an Android, I don't know if this is like this on iPhones, but Android, if you got Google on it, there's like the Google News page, and for some reason, it had on there list of serial killers by numbers of kills. Like it lists like the worst killers, and they don't have hardly any of the killers that I have found. Like, and the worst serial killer I found by far was Enriqueta Marquis. And that's because it's from a really long time ago. She killed probably in the thousands of children. And there's not a lot of documentation going back that far, but I can't believe I've never heard anyone else talk about her. And if you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend it. It's disgusting, as all of them are, but yeah, she was probably the worst of the worst. Pedro Lopez, Pedro Lopez, and then Elizabeth Bathory. Is that the one that the lady Countess Bathory? She's got like 600 plus. I think the worst was probably Pedro Lopez because it was the most recent, and it was children. And the worst part is he was caught twice and then let go. The first was by a village of people that were going to kill him, and then they let him go. And then the statute of limitations or the sentencing in his country let him go, but nobody believes that he made it out. But, oh yeah. What's messed up is sociopaths like that end up as CEOs of companies because they will exploit people. H.H. Holmes is crazy. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure H.H. Holmes is probably like just like Enriqueta Marquis or Marti, because it's probably in the thousands, but it's too hard to prove it. Definitely. Because they always had that, wasn't that the World Fair that was right there? So there was always a limitless amount of people that came into town all the time, and there was no way that you would ever be able to prove, if they came up missing, that he would be the reason why. All right, back to this again. If you're thinking about becoming a teacher and you just tuned in, you might want to listen later. And if you're a kid listening, get the hell out of here. And if you're a parent and you're letting your kid listen to this, you're just the worst person ever. Anyways, back to the stories. And this is probably if you're a parent that lets your kid listen to this, your kid's probably on this list of kids that torments teachers. So this applause is for you. Anyways, this is titled Worst Person Ever. The last one was the worst human being I've ever known. He was a bright student, made good grades, impressed all the teachers and many of his peers with his talent. But he was and is an utter sociopath. I fell under his spell for his 9th and 10th grade years, but by the time he got to 11th grade, I was starting to get suspicious. By the end of his 11th grade year, all the teachers knew he was a piece of crap, and by the time he graduated, he was roundly hated by most of his peers and any teacher that had him in class. He lied, he stole, he cheated, and he was utterly immoral about all of it. He schemed his way into a full scholarship to an out-of-state university with a prestigious program in his field of interest. He got kicked out within a year. Wow. Yeah, yikes. Yeah, that death hotel. Oh yeah, Countess Bathory. Yeah, she was crazy. She was cruel. She was cruel because I think it's crueler from what I've studied anyways, between the male and the female killers. By far, I've seen women have the higher amount of kills, because I think it is because people don't suspect women, so they get away with it for longer. And they have this emotional aspect to it, so people, I think they get lured in, and they're crueler. Like I know that they talk about what I can see his face right now, serial killer. Everyone thought he was handsome, which is insane to me that you would think that a serial killer is handsome. Ted Bundy, yeah, that's the one. The one who was a product of incest that no one talks about. I mean, he was just a psychopath. The fact that he got away with that as long as he did is crazy. Same with Macy. Like, they were just like obviously blatantly violent, but because society expects that at the time anyway, from like, it's not shocking until you find out there's a weird smell coming from underneath the guy's house. But as far as like Enriqueta Marquis got away with it because she stole these children and then would act like they were her own, and then I don't know. I don't want to talk about that on here. It's so bad. It's so bad. If you haven't seen that, I'll recommend you go back and watch that because it's, yikes. All right, let's see. All right. If again, we're reading teachers talk about their worst stories. Ted Bundy broke out of jail and then he was caught in Florida and then he tried to be his own lawyer. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, with serial killers, if they ever confess to a specific amount of kills, that number is always higher. Just so you know, there's always going to be an amount of victims that never have any, like, their case isn't solved. They're still out there missing. No one ever gets charged with their crime for killing them. It's just awful. All right, if you're just tuning in, we're reading teacher stories. So if you're thinking about becoming a teacher, you might want to skip this part right now. And if you're a child, get out of here. Third grader doesn't know how insults work yet. So I'm a teacher who also works at our after-school program. So I have kids from across several grades. One of my third grade boys was arguing with another boy when he shouts, not sharts. Oh yeah? Well, you can put your penis in my butt. He was clearly serious and seemed to be under the impression that it was like a fuck you type insult. The other boy fell into stunned silence, and some of the 5th grade boys who heard started snickering, but were kind enough to tell him, dude, don't ever say that again. Oh my god, that's hilarious. That's not even... This one says, talk about a crappy day at school. My mother was once a 1st grade teacher. She told me about a time when a boy in her class went into the bathroom, came out with his turd, threw it at the chalkboard, and it splattered everywhere. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Awful Christmas list. Overheard this in community college after returning from the Christmas break. The teacher asks, how was your break? The student says, I didn't get my Christmas wish. The teacher asks what it was, and the student says, my wish was that you would die and wouldn't come back. Wow, that's short and sweet and awful. All right. This one says the teacher got locked in a cabinet. One of my coworkers was reaching into a supply cabinet when a few students came up behind him and shoved him into the cabinet and locked it with a padlock between the cabinet handles. He was there yelling and banging to be let out. The students laughed. The bell rang. They left him in there for the next class. This class also thought it was funny at first, but then they became worried that they would get in trouble. But none of them could open the padlock, and no one wanted to go down to the office and tell them what happened. So the class just sat around for the rest of the period while the teacher was locked inside. Oh my god. Then the next class came. He was discovered by the janitor after spending hours locked in that tiny space. Worse, he had to show up for work the next day and teach the same kids who were never punished. Excuse me. No way. The event broke something inside of him, and he was never the same. He stopped trying in every way. He came to work, passed out worksheets, and left on time. He never corrected student behavior and never disciplined students. He was a mediocre teacher before this event, and afterwards he was the example of the absolute bare minimum that can be done to avoid getting fired. I mean, I don't blame him, but I think you have to be firm but fair, and you have to be able to take control of a room without being mean. And I think that takes a very balanced and specific and special individual to be a teacher. So that's terrible. Okay, we're reading teacher stories. So if you're thinking about being a teacher, you might want to. There's only 2 more of these. And if you're a kid, get the heck out of here. This says a student hid after class to assault a teacher. Awesome. I worked at a school where a student stayed late one day planning to attack a teacher. Apparently, he hid somewhere while everyone left, so he was free to roam once all the other students were gone. One unlucky female teacher was grading papers in her room alone when he wandered in. He surprised her and started hitting her in the face with a pencil. Another teacher, hearing her screams, rushed to her room and pulled the 15-year-old off of her. She lost an eye, never taught again, and that little went to prison. 15 years old and went to prison? Goodness gracious. This is the last one in the set of teacher stories, so which is good, because if anyone was thinking about becoming a teacher, you definitely got discouraged now. Let's see, a few choice experiences. So there was a student known to be the daughter of blank dealers, so I'm going to guess drug dealers. She was incredibly violent, and eventually the administration decided on expulsion. The girl told her mother it was my doing and that I was targeting her. Mom promised me at the hearing that her husband would kill me and the principal at the end of the school day. When Dad came to pick up their younger son in the car line at the end of the day, he pulled a gun, pointed it at me and the principal, who both worked car dismissal. The police were there as a precaution and arrested him immediately. The entire thing was surreal. Turns out the gun wasn't loaded, but still some of the most pants-crapping moments of my life. My personal favorite was when a student dropped his pants in the middle of my room and peed on another teacher's leg when he wouldn't let him use the restroom during a session of standardized testing. I had to get between them because I honestly believed the other teacher was going to break him in half if I didn't. Wow. I don't know. Those weren't scary. I mean, a couple of them were scary, but I think those were the most decent stories collection I've had in a while. What do you guys think about that one? 15 with attempted murder. Manslaughter with a pencil. Tried being the Joker, apparently. That's crazy. Let's put a smile on that face. Yikes. Man. My friend and I were just talking about that. Like, you know, there's some people that will, like, tolerate people doing stuff to them before they snap. And I'm just completely the opposite of that. Not tolerant at all. So it's always amazing to me what people will put up with before they reach their point. I don't know. I guess I'm a crazy one. Okay, we're moving on to psych ward stories, which is what everyone came here for, right? The teacher stories were kind of bad, though. I don't know. This one says patient gouges own eyes out. Have we read this before? You guys are going to have to let me know. This one doesn't look very long, but still. Let's see. My mom told me this story from her time at a neuropsychiatric ward while she was in grad school. So she was making her routine room checks and happened upon the most horrific scene I've ever heard of. This was during the night shift, and generally all the patients' bedroom doors should be closed. So my mom turned a corner and noticed an open door. She saw a staff member's legs on the floor, halfway out of the doorway. When she looked into the room, she saw the patient, a woman with a severe postpartum psychiatric disorder, who had just gouged out both of her own eyes with her bare hands, and she was sitting cross-legged on the floor, holding her own eyes in her own hand. The first staff member to witness the scene was now lying face down on the floor, had had a heart attack when she first witnessed the woman when she was making her rounds, or his rounds. My mom screamed for help and frantically tried to perform CPR on the staff member, All the while, the woman just sat rather calmly, holding her own eyes. Yeah, I swear we've read that one before. Yikes. Oof. Let's see. This one's titled "Jane May Be Possessed." Ooh, chivers already. We had a young lady in our custody with quite a few issues. We'll call her Jane. On Jane's first night at our facility, staff performing a bed check found Jane in a puddle of blood. Turns out Jane had been slicing the skin around her shin with her fingernails and was pulling her skin up her leg, essentially degloving her calf. Oh. Jane also had a ritual she performed every night before bed. While in her room, she would walk to every wall and touch them in a crucifix pattern. After doing this for a few hours, she would sit on her bed and go to sleep. One night, Jane's pace was frantic. Our night staff observed the entire interaction and reported Jane screaming late into the night. When one staff member went to check on Jane, she reported Jane standing in the doorway smiling. The staff asked what was wrong, and Jane replied, "What makes you think you're speaking to Jane?" Ooh, I quit. I quit. I quit. Yikes. Who are you going to get to go in that room? Who is going to go in there? Who is going to voluntarily go in there and help this patient? That is terrifying. Ugh. Yikes, that one was kind of scary. All right. Patient is too hot for teacher. Well, this is okay. I don't know what to expect out of that last one. I was a pharmacy tech at a hospital with a psych ward for some time. We would have to go around with a cart and dispense the patient's medications. And being a 5'2" girl and security guard or male nurse would accompany me just as a precaution. I never had any real issues other than the occasional death grip onto my arm or manic outbursts. But there was one boy who was entirely different. Whew. His chart said he was 9. He had pale skin, dark hair, and huge, bright green eyes. He always greeted me in the most polite way, asked how I was doing, always found something different to compliment me on every single time. He was extremely well-spoken and mature for his age, so I began looking forward to seeing him, as normal small talk is definitely cherished in that setting. If he saw me outside of his room in the halls, he made sure to say hello and always called me Miss Jones or ma'am. One day, a couple of our female nurses saw me pause to chat with him in the hallway and waved me over to ask if I was out of my mind. Apparently, when he was in kindergarten, he grew an intense attachment to his young female teacher. This escalated to the point of him calling her mom and leaving notes for her about how he wished he were her son. He had a normal home life with both parents, and the teacher tried to explain to him that she couldn't be his mom because that would hurt his real mother's feelings and that she already had that job covered. So, he went home and killed his own mother in her sleep by cutting her throat, so his teacher could be his mom. The female staff had a general rule of not interacting with him excessively to prevent any kind of attachment from forming. So don't judge a book by its cover, I guess. Woo-wee! All right, so if you're just joining me and you're a child, get the hell out of here. Please do not let your children listen to this. This is Psych Ward Stories if you're just joining us. Let's see. I'll go in and smack that demon out. Nope. Scary. Oh my god, ew. Alright, moving on. This one says, patient issues disturbing warning about abduction. I was working an overnight shift. Okay, all these are happening at night, right? So if you're going to work in a psych ward, work during the day. Alright? Unless you want haunted, ghost, creepy, demon, possessed stories, then you work at night for the content alone that you're going to get. Anyway. I was working an overnight shift on an Alzheimer's ward at a nursing home. Pause. If you've never had to do any kind of work with Alzheimer's patients, um, it can be absolutely terrifying watching the switch happen. It's like a blink, a snap into a different person. Um, yeah. I was working an overnight shift on an Alzheimer's ward at a nursing home. It was about 2:30 in the morning, and I was making my rounds, peeking into the rooms, making sure the patients were where they should be. Went into one room, and this 83-year-old woman was sitting up in her bed, staring at the wall. Ugh. I'm already like this. I slowly walked into the room and calmly asked her if she wanted to lie back down. She turned her head slowly, looked me right in the eye, and said, "They're coming for you, dear." And then she started laughing. I'm talking full on hysterical, insane cackling. I almost pissed myself right there. No kidding. She finally calmed down and I got her to lie back down. When she was just about to go back to sleep, she looked at me again and said, "I'm going to miss you when they take you," and went right back to sleep. I was terrified the rest of the night. Yeah, that's the right reaction. What the heck? Old lady speaks in tongues. Yeah. When I first started working in the hospital, I was sitting with this sweet little old woman. I had sat with her, talking about her family and such for 6 hours. Toward the end of my shift, 9 p.m., they decided she didn't need to have a heart monitor, so they transferred her to a different unit. Once we got to the new room, she started acting differently. Just generally angry, I would say. Then, all of a sudden, she tried to jump out of the bed, a big no-no at hospitals, so I immediately got up to stop her. She started screaming bloody murder about how her house was on fire, her family was inside, and she needed to get them out. I tried to calm her down, but to no avail. She started yelling at me about how I'm going to rot in the flames of hell because God told her so, and how I was responsible for her family's death. I said death with an F. Staring deep into my eyes, she told me about how I will burn in eternal flames and that I am filled with evil. I thought, okay, at least she isn't worried about her family or trying to get out of bed. But then she started screaming at the top of her lungs in what I can only describe as Latin or maybe even gibberish. She then ripped out her dentures, threw them at me, pulled all of the skin on her face back into this long, stretched out, creepy smile, let out a blood-curdling scream while her eyes rolled back into her head like some sort of possession scene in a movie. Just as she let up, my relief came into the room. I wished her luck and booked it out of there. The second I got off the unit, I called my mom and cried for a good 15 minutes. And I still think about her stretched out face sometimes. Oh my God. Because that's probably how I would react, just like that. I would just be like speechless, but also laughing. Like, we were talking about tattoos earlier. Was that something that you guys could hear when we were talking about tattoos? Was that when I was still muted and I was talking about my own tattoo? When you guys were talking about shirt tattoos? Remember that? Hold on a second. Yeah, I don't think you guys could hear me. We were talking about tattoos. And I said, some people will they'll wince in pain, or some people won't have any reaction, but I laugh like a serial killer when I get something like something like that happens. I don't know why I do that. It's like a like it tickles, but it doesn't tickle. I don't know. Yeah, when you were muted. Awesome. So again, I was talking to myself for a good long time. I have to let my dog outside, so the entire computer system is coming with me to let my dog outside. So yeah. You guys will hear me at my echoey kitchen, letting my dog outside. So we'll have to put the reading on hold for just a second here, because I don't want my dog to pee on the floor. I think that's a completely... Oh no, earlier I was muted and There's something stuck to my computer. Tank or Ronnie were talking about. No, I don't think it's pleasure. Oh, I think you're talking about a video I have on here. I just remember my husband and daughter laughing at me because I was laughing while I was getting my tattoo. Like it was tickling me, but it wasn't tickling me at all. I don't know how to explain other than that. Let me give my dog a little treat for not peeing on the floor. Yeah, here you go, girl. Thank you. All right, back to stories. Let's see, these psych ward ones are pretty good. Got lucky. I feel like we kind of roll the dice whenever we do these stories like this. Sometimes they suck. Seems like more often than not they suck, but these ones seem to be pretty decent so far. So let's keep going, shall we? Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. So let's see. Let me get caught up with the... Okay. This is number 6, and I think there's... Let me see how many there are in here. 15. So we got a few to go. These are decent. I like them. Wish they were a little longer. Again, if you guys have any requests, drop them in the chat. If you're just joining, we are reading psych ward stories. We started out with Reddit author by the name of Bloody Spaghetti. I will drop his link in the comment section. If you are new here and you are a child, this is adult time. Scary story. You go bye-bye. All right. They're still entertaining to hear. Fun time had by all here. Okay. Number 6. Pilot with amnesia could be a human experiment. So I work in an ER, and due to my country and state's poor mental health system, we see acute psychotic episodes daily. Over time, you get desensitized to it, but there's still one that turns my stomach. So a guy was found in a burning abandoned building. He wasn't hurt, but was acting so strange the paramedics brought him in. He was homeless, had no ID, did not know his own name. He had 0 drugs in his system. Looking into his eyes, you could tell he wasn't seeing the same thing that I was seeing. So I'm trying to get his name out of him, or anything. And he keeps telling me that he was a pilot for the Air Force and flew experimental airplanes because he could withstand the G-force and his blood was naturally thin. The blood tests that measure this actually were fairly higher than normal, but not elevated to the point that he was on medication for it. So he was right on that account. I was at the desk telling a coworker about the stuff this guy was saying when a resident overheard me. He was former Air Force as well, and looked like he had seen a ghost. As soon as I mentioned the name of the base, this doctor freaked out. He said that city base has no roads in or out of that top secret testing goes on down there. He said that you don't know about it unless you've been there. And he told me not to talk about it or make a big deal. And this made it even creepier. Ooh, I think I've read that story before. Hey, Hubster. Aww. So my husband went to visit his cousins. He's at Cincinnati's game right now. And this is the first time in 12 years that my husband is not home. 12 years. Hope you're having fun, honey. He can't hear me now, but he'll hear it later. Anyways, let's see. If you're just joining us, we're in psych ward stories. If you're a kid, get out of here. Let's move on. Young girl displays truly disturbing behavior. This story is sad, so brace yourself. Oh boy. Okay. I was working in a mental health ward around Christmas time a year ago. Long story short, it was shower time for one of the patients. She was a young girl, maybe 13 or 14, with a really intense history of physical abuse. My coworkers got her to the shower and undressed her. She coughed up a great deal of saliva and spat it on the ground really slowly. Before we can do or say anything, she knelt on all fours, licked it all up, laughed, and said, "I'm ready, Daddy." I was shaken up for weeks after that, and I still try not to think about it. There is a happy ending to the story, though, that her scum father is in jail, and the girl has been adopted. Well, I hope she has the appropriate therapy. Jesus Christ. 12 years. Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised I can sleep at all. Hey, wacky yellow dog. Hello. Let's see, how can I do this? He can't hear me, so I have to type to him. Anyways. Yeah, that was very awful. As we've all pointed out before, if you're new here, Wacky Yellow Dog, I don't recall seeing your name before, but I haven't been on here in a while. We come here for the darkness, hence the name. So if you're a kid, get out of here. And if you're just joining us, we're reading psych ward stories, and that's not always happy, joy time. All right, this one is number 8, and it's called Sleep Talker Communes with the Dead. My clients have dementia, and there's one who creeps me out a lot. During the day, she's the sweetest old lady, but at night she sleep talks. It's not normal sleep talking. Her eyes are open, and sometimes she's sitting up. Sometimes it's impossible to tell when she's gone from sleeping to being awake until she turns to you and asks if you've seen the little girl that was just there, the one she was talking to. She talks about people being there all the time, including a little boy that has died, and she wonders what she should do with the body. There's another motorcycle. She mentions a little girl that sleeps with her, a man that orders her around, and her dead husband who was always looking for her. I heard her talking once, and she was being very loud, but as I reached the open doorway, she said, "Shh, they're all sleeping. Better not talk about it now." And she promptly stopped talking and just lay there very still. Ugh. Oh, yikes. Note to self, probably will never work in psych ward, especially not at night, unless I need content. I mean, I'm telling you, if any one of these psych ward workers were to make content, of course, keeping everyone anonymous, years later, they could have an endless, thick book of stories. Anyway, number 9 is patients predict their own deaths. Ew. Well, my mother was a nurse that specialized in geriatrics, and she worked for several hospice hospitals for many years. She often described situations at her work with several of the patients. She would say that each person tends to have a very similar checklist that they follow right before death. This checklist often ended in a very similar way. They would get caught talking to someone that wasn't there. When they asked who, otherwise lucid people, were talking to, they would describe an individual who was already dead. When asked what they were talking about, they would say that their relative wanted to know if they were ready to move on. A pretty common response would be, "Yeah, she said that she'll take me tomorrow at 3. And it would often happen that they would die at the exact time that their relatives quoted. Woo! Ooh. Hospice is awfully hard. They could have a nonstop supply of fun stories. There's actually, again, not to bring up TikTok again, but there's a guy, he does psych ward stories. The last I watched, his daughter had an ocular neuropathy, an ocular issue, and I follow so many people on TikTok that they get lost and I can't find them again until they pop up on my For You page. But he's always like, story time, and he talks about his patients in the psych ward. They're usually entertaining. I think there's only been 1 or 2 that have been sad that I've heard of, but Mainly, they're pretty entertaining. Anyway, if you're just joining us, we're reading psych ward stories. If you're a kid, get out. All right. Sometimes it's scariest when they make sense. Yeah. I had an hour-long conversation with a delusional guy who was confined to a mental health facility and who was probably smarter than I am. Lots of these folks believe that somebody, often the CIA, is either beaming thoughts into their heads or has implanted a microchip in their brains for this purpose. This guy was offering a very thoughtful argument as to why such claims should not be so quickly dismissed. It's precisely because, okay, this is quoting, it's precisely because such delusions are so common that mental patients make the best test subjects, he said. There he was, confined and protected, constantly observed, his health and behavior documented, and there is zero chance that anyone would ever take his concerns seriously. How else would you test and improve such technology? Does the government not have a strong motivation and plausible ability to create such a device? You can see I'm not rational, the man said. I'm just straight up telling you that they are doing this to me. I know just how unbelievable it sounds, and yet here I am. Yeah, I think a lot of times people labeled as crazy is because people don't want to believe someone. I'm not saying that that guy's telling the truth, but I think a lot of times that there's many people that if people just listen to them, we could prevent some things from happening. Just saying. All right, if you're just joining us and you're a kid, get out of here. Notes up here under beds. Once a fellow female patient told me she found writings under her bed. They were just old, small, wooden bed frames with hard mattresses that would make all kinds of noises when you rolled over. But I still wondered what exactly she was doing lying under her bed to find these writings. When she first told me, I thought it was a joke. But sure enough, one day during group, we managed to sneak away and she showed me. Indeed, there were stories written under her bed. After that, we had everyone check under their own beds, and there were more writings under every single bed. There were stories of patients who had stayed there before, or ways they were planning on killing themselves, or who the good and bad nurses were. It all creeped me out. Wow. Oh my God. That means they weren't cleaning underneath those beds either. All right, this one's number 13. Hello, Outrum Stepler. If there's anybody here and I didn't directly say hi to you, please let me know. If anybody popped in while I was reading, I don't think there's anybody I didn't say hi to, and if I didn't, I apologize. I did say hi to a lot of people when my mic was muted, so there's that. This one is Stephen King Delusion Leads to Creepy Encounter. We are reading psych ward stories. We're on 13 of 16. So if you're not here for the scary, creepy, weird, dark, this isn't for you. And if you're a kid, get out. Stephen King Delusion Leads to Creepy Encounter. Once I was volunteering at a hospital, sitting with patients who might harm themselves while waiting for doctors or nurses to show up. I was sitting with one man, maybe mid-30s, who thought he was in a Stephen King novel. At first, he thought I was his psychologist because I was holding a clipboard while talking to him, so he was telling me all about his thoughts and would ask my opinion. Trying not to upset him and make him snap, I went along with it, nodding, and when he asked my opinion, I would turn the question around and ask him what he thought about it. This worked until the last hour of my shift, and then he looked at me and said, You can be the next Messiah. Come here and let me teach you. He patted the bed beside him. I politely declined to sit near him. He then went silent for a moment and said, I see. With that, he started taking off his oxygen and his heart monitor and his IV. I asked him why he was doing these things, and he looked at me and said, I can go now. My task is complete. You will not accept my training, and now I can die in peace knowing I tried. Once the nurse showed up, I made my escape. Oh, man. Let's see. Let's see. Mom misses her daughter. This is 14 of 16. Since the psych ward was out of rooms, I had to spend my last couple of days sleeping in the corridor. Oh my God. Come on. That's not even okay. All right. First, one of the patients from the so-called screened part of the ward barged into the corridor, grabbed one of the other corridor patients, and began jabbering on about her parrot. She was then taken back to her room after the nurses finished their coffee. Then the screaming started. In the room next to me, an elderly psychotic lady started at first talking to her dead daughter. Sometimes comforting her, telling her how much she loved her, and so on. After a while, though, she got angry and started blaming her dead daughter for everything, from burning the porridge to killing her. A lot of it was incoherent crying or babbling. After a while, I asked the orderlies to have my bed moved. Yeah, that's awful. Number 15. Oh, I'm sorry, 15. There's not 16 stories, there's 15. Wow, I'm terrible. Terrible person. The bird is real. I once knew a woman who had spent part of her residency at a psychiatric hospital for people with severe mental conditions. Apparently, the grounds had a lovely enclosed greenhouse. One day, one of her schizophrenic patients was sitting on a bench smoking a cigarette as a heron frantically flew around. It had found its way in, and not being able to escape, it was smashing into the large panes of glass. The man just sat there watching. Finally, my counselor asked him if the bird was bothering him, and he kind of sighed and said, "Thank God. I thought I was the only one seeing that." Oh my God. Can you imagine that? Like, you're just sitting there minding your own business thinking, I am completely crazy. Okay, so we can either read, what's the other ones I had? 911 dispatchers describe the creepiest calls they've ever had, or we can go to this next list of, let's see, 18 creepy stories from people who worked in hospitals. So I'll let you guys decide. One would be 911 stories. Two would be people from hospitals. One or two. You guys decide. I'll give you like a minute to vote. Anybody that speaks up here. Squirrel. Funny thing is I don't need a squirrel to be distracted. We got one. One is for the 911 stories. Two is for the people who work in hospitals. One? Okay, we'll just do one. Okay. Actually, let me save that one, though, so I can go back to it. How do I save this? All right. Sorry, I'm trying to copy and paste this. All right, copy, and go to this one here. Sorry about that. I'm surprised my voice didn't go out yet. All right. 911 dispatchers describe the creepiest calls I've ever had. So, these look really, really short. So maybe they'll be good. Maybe they'll be good because we've had pretty good luck so far. If anyone's ever been here for live streams before and I find stories, it's kind of like a roll of the dice if they're going to suck or not. Yeah. So, if you're a child, these are not stories for children. Parents, don't let your kids listen to this. Anyways, moving on. 911 calls. Here we go. First one up to bat, man shoots wife and then himself. A guy shot his wife after he found her cheating. He was hysterical and scared crapless about what he had just done. Put the phone down, and there was another gunshot. He killed himself, and I heard it. His wife was still alive, and she was screaming that she forgave him over and over, and that they were going to get through it. It was awful. Wow, awful right out of the bat. Oh, yeah, no. No. Attack with baseball bats. This one says I had one person call in screaming about a guy getting beat to death in their front yard with the sounds of aluminum bats ringing in the background. Oof, Jesus. Had to help a 12-year-old boy start CPR on his mother who attempted suicide on July 4th some years ago. She passed away and I have never forgot about it. Damn. You guys asked for him though, so here we go. The calm man on the edge. Got a call from a guy saying he was sitting in his car with a shotgun and was going to kill himself. He seemed very calm, and I could tell in his voice that he had made up his mind, and this wasn't a cry for help like most of the other suicide calls I receive. He told me he was at one of our train stations, but wouldn't tell me which one, so I had officers out looking for him. I made small talk with him about his family and sports. I even had him laugh a few times. After about 10 minutes of talking and me thinking I've made progress, he finally says, "Well, it's been nice talking to you, but I gotta get going." Then he proceeded to put the gun in his mouth and pull the trigger, and I heard his death gurgles. You guys let me know if you want to keep going with this, because I feel like that's going to be a theme in here. I haven't pre-read these. If you're just tuning in, we're reading 911 dispatcher stories, and if you're a kid, these stories are not for you. Get out. 3 nightmare stories. So this is one person had 3 different calls, 3 different situations. I've had a lot of them. This one lady was screaming, just horrific screaming. Then the phone went dead. I called back only to hear that horrific screaming again. Then I heard someone in the background screaming, "He's stabbing her, he's stabbing her." She died. He did get caught by an officer I had dispatched. She literally jumped off a car roof and landed on top of the guy. Not sure what his sentence was. Another guy who drowned his 2-year-old son. This messed me up for a while because I was pregnant with my son at the time, and I kept thinking how unfair that some child could be so terrified as the person he trusted and loved was harming him. Not only that, but when you drown, you're conscious till the end. I still cry for that little boy sometimes. I had another one who was changing the oil in his SUV. Long story short, the SUV fell on him and he died before help got there. There are a lot of calls like that, when you're the last person they're ever going to talk to. I knew as soon as I heard his breaths go agonal that he was done. It was hard to accept that the ambulance in his township was wasted on some bullshit call, back pain for the past month, and the next ambulance nearby was 25 minutes away. And the jerk wasted an ambulance and somebody probably died for it. You called the ambulance for back pain? Drive your butt to the hospital. I'm sorry, but no. I don't know who can afford to ride an ambulance. Raise your hand, because last person I heard talk about their ambulance bill, it was $3,000. So, tell me you're rich without telling me you're rich. Swamp Girl, hey, how you doing? How you doing? I couldn't imagine working dispatch. I couldn't deal hearing things about children and such. Hey, nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Yeah, I couldn't either. When I was a senior in high school, there was actually this program for nursing. Long story short, there was a program for nursing. It was 2 years. And anybody that got a 4.0 in that 2-year span, which is hard to do when you're in high school, you got to go onto this program when you were done, and it was through a hospital, and then in 2 years you'd have your RN. So when you were like 19 or 20, you'd have your RN. There was 5 people out of 55 people that got that. I was not one of them, obviously. But you had to go into different units, you know, as this studying nurse. And my least favorite, my most favorite and least favorite was the peds ward, because out of all the kids that were there, there was only one parent. There was only one parent there with these very young, small children who were all scared. They didn't feel good. They didn't, understand why they weren't at home. They're just little kids. And my friend and I were reading this little boy. We were reading him stories, and he didn't want us to leave, but we had to go back to school because we had 0 hour skill center, which is what this was called. And we had to go back to regular class at our regular school after that morning class at the hospital. And he cried for me as I walked down the hallway, and I cried all the way down the hallway and all the way down. And I just thought, man, I really questioned if I could do that. And not that I went on in the program anyway, but I really I always thought, man, there's no way I could watch these little kids come in sick. And a lot of them come in sick because they have people that don't take care of, not all of them. There's a lot of kids that are just, they are sick for other reasons. But when you know that someone has harmed them or neglected them, there's no way that I would there's no way I could be nice to the parents. I know that for sure. I couldn't fake it. There's no way I could. So hats off to any nurse that can find that compassion in that situation to not beat the hell out of a terrible parent. I don't know how you do it. First time I've seen something pop up on my... Hey, yeah. Oh, yeah. $3,000. Tell me you're rich. The last time I made videos was in March, and then right after that I got COVID. So, yeah, so here we are. Never ended up in the hospital, thank goodness. One of the lucky ones. So if you guys have experienced it, I'm sorry for you, and I hope that you don't experience it. Okay, let's see. Ambulance cuts different in different areas. States only between 600 to 1,000 near my property or area pending EMS or private company ambulance. Yeah, it's crazy. I couldn't believe that. 600 or 1,000. If you are ever on a video or a TikTok and you see the commentary, people are like, ambulances aren't your taxi to the hospital. That's literally what their intention was. Anyways, let's finish with these now. Hopefully there's not so many, these are going to be bad. Let's just face it. That's what we're here for, right? All right. This one's called The Vanishing Man. A year into the job with a pretty large town with woods all around it. Got a call from a young man, identified himself as 21. Said he went on a hike with his best friend. And this is where it got weird. I asked for his location, and it was 50 miles from the nearest trailhead, but not in the direction the trails move. I asked him to tell me what the problem was and what services he needed when he burst into tears, saying one moment his friend was in front of him, and the next he was gone. Dispatched sheriff and was told neither man was ever found. It still freaks me out. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I do too. I could make an entire live stream on that. Yeah. It is insane that we pay for that anyway. It sure as hell is. I could go right into, squirrel. I don't want to squirrel myself into that conversation, but I could really literally talk about that all night long. Yeah. Anyway. Blood-curdling scream. I took a public safety dispatcher class for post-cert. The class is taught by a current dispatcher. The teacher played one for us, and I'll never forget it. Oh, so they had to listen to live calls, yeah. It was an old woman on the phone that was calling to report someone creeping around in the backyard. She asked them to hurry. The dispatcher says police are on their way but won't be there for 5 minutes. Yikes, a lot can happen in 5 minutes. The dispatcher asks for an address but hears it wrong. Okay, pause. I thought that when you call 911 that they had a locator service. So if you're calling, let's say you're at someone's house, you pop in someone's house, you're babysitting or something, and you don't know the address, but they can still find you. Am I wrong on that? Does everybody else think that too? I always thought that they could just find you. Wow. I'm so stupid. Anyways, let's see. The dispatcher asks for the address but hears it wrong. As the lady is saying the address, she gets attacked and lets out this scream that sounds like a dying animal combined with the worst fear you've ever heard in your life. Then it's silent. Gone. The phone's on, and you can hear someone moving stuff around. The police spent 4 hours looking for that woman's house. The dispatcher got the address wrong. It was an example of how important it is to ask for a clear address first. Like, am I wrong? Did you guys think that too? Am I just one of those... Am I the only one that thought that? Like, I literally thought, like, when you call 911, because when I've called 911 before, they tell me my address back. Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's called E911. Not all phone service have. Okay. Hello, Zach S. Just because I don't. If you've been in here, I didn't know, so I'm trying to make it a point to say hello to anybody that pops in. All right, so if it's rural, sometimes they can't. Yeah, okay, that's good to know. Right. This one says it never stops. Looks like we're about halfway through with these ones, so, okay. Uh-oh, something happened. There we go. It never stops. I was honestly debating whether or not to even post this one because it upsets me. Okay, so there's our trigger warning. This one's going to be bad. I'm not allowed to give exact details, but one of my worst calls was from a little boy. Oh, God, you guys know this is going to be bad. I think he was 5. He was hiding in his closet because his dad was drunk and beating the crap out of his mom. He lived in a very rural area. It was about an hour drive from the nearest police detachment. I stayed on the phone with him for 45 minutes. The guys drive fast when there's kids involved, trying to keep him calm. You literally talk about anything that pops into your head, the weather, TV shows, his favorite toys. All the while, you can plainly hear a woman screaming and crying in the background. And as the call goes on, you can still hear the guy beating her. But her screams turn into grunts and moans. You cannot tune it out because you're constantly typing what you hear. Any details you can get from the background noise is valuable to the officers attending. The guys arrive, arrest the guy, and I hung up once they had the kids safe. And then the phone rang again. Because there is no stopping. There's no time to process what just happened, and honestly, it's probably for the best. A lot of the times you don't find out the outcome of the call because, as I said, there's always more phones ringing. Yikes! Okay, so that, I don't know if I could handle that. That might make my brain snap. Some people can't prank call 911. I didn't think anyone could prank call 911 because I thought they could find your location. I feel really stupid right now. There's an echo. Something happened to my mic. I wonder what it is. Are we testing the limits of this live stream? How are we now? Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Are we good? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Can anybody hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me, please. Anything at all? Can anybody hear me? Can no one hear me? Hello? Can anybody hear me? Thumbs up. Okay. Echoey, but you can hear me. You have moved to the cave. Yeah, I didn't move at all. It's weird. Alright, so I'm going to keep reading unless it's really bad, then we'll have to cut it out. So, I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know if it's my headset or what. How about now? Okay. So I'm going to keep reading, so you guys let me know if it's too annoying, and then we'll just call it a night. Let's see here. Next one's titled Horrendous Neglect. Still an echo. Sorry. I don't know why there's an echo at all. I can turn this up and see if I can hear it. Oh, shoot. Yeah, it's like a robot voice, so I don't know why that happened. It's weird. All right, so the worst call I had was a child that died in a hot car. This was not a case where a parent went shopping and left a baby in the car for some time on a hot summer day. It was someone who admitted they forgot their child in the back seat. This was a child that was old enough to walk, talk, turn the car on and off as if air was needed, hang out and read or go inside and cool off. The parent had restrained the child in an SUV so none of these things could be done and did not check on the child for several hours. It was a few more hours before the parent told anyone the child had died. Is the remix. If you're just joining us, it's Robot Hour. We're reading Psych Ward stories. We're here for dark, creepy stories. It's gross. If you're a kid, get the heck out of here. This one's titled Diana. This one's titled Diana. Should I read them like this? Is it more entertaining if I do? Damn it. Let's discount the fact that for the first half an hour my microphone was muted and I didn't know it, so I was talking to myself, and you guys couldn't even hear me anyways. Awesome. Anyways, this one's titled Diana. Diana was depressed and suicidal. She called from a disconnected cell phone and how did she call from a disconnected cell phone? Maybe Wi-Fi? And refused to give me her location. I never stopped trying to get a ping on her, but it was in an apartment complex and there wasn't much I could do for that. She refused to let me send anyone to her, refused to talk to EMS, to suicide hotlines or supervisors. I answered the phone so I was the only one she would talk to. We talked for a really long time, not just relative to my normal calls of a couple minutes. I mean, 2 hours of my life was spent trying to talk Diana out of this. I quit the job to become an EMT. Since then, I have been mentally unstable. I've seen mentally unstable people, domestic violence victims, vehicle accident victims, attempted suicides and successful ones, unconscious babies, burn victims, people actively being suffocated to death by their own bodies. I've seen young stroke patients, seen hearts stop beating, fixed boo-boos, gave hugs, held hands, seen so many terrible things that I could fill a book with stories that would rob you of sleep. And I'm not really bothered by any of that and actually find most of it incredibly fascinating. But I'll never forget Diana. I really wanted to help her and tried everything I could think of. I know it's not my fault that she decided the outcome before she ever placed the call, but it doesn't change how it made me feel. It doesn't change how it made me feel. All cell phones can call 911 even with... Oh, that's right. You're right. Hard-hitting call. Hard-hitting call. Squirrel. Beep boop beep. Damn it. Stupid live stream. Anyways, my last week on the job before my promotion to a completely different position with the department. A frantic father calls 911 yelling his 14-month-old son wasn't breathing. The boy somehow got outside and fell in the pool. At minimum, he was underwater for a few minutes. I start giving CPR instructions over the phone. I try my best to calm the father enough to listen to me to start compressions. One of our officers gets there and takes over CPR. Fire department gets there shortly after. I've done CPR over a dozen times as a former EMT. I've done a few over the phone, but never for a child as young as this kid. I couldn't hang up. The father left the line open and I kept listening. Heard the compressions. Heard the life pack charging up. Heard the shock. I heard silence still. After a few minutes, they load and go. I could hear the parents crying, blaming themselves for killing their own baby. The medics were able to get a pulse just before calling it. The NICU tried their best, but the child passed 24 hours later. I had 3 years behind the phone, and never had a call hit me so hard. I took my break early that night and went back to work. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I could go back to work after that. Duchess D2. It's so frustrating that that's happening. I could do absolutely nothing about it, and I don't know why it happened either. So stupid. Stupid freaking connection. I know it's probably the connection or something like that because I didn't switch spots or anything. You guys even went with me to let my dog out, and it didn't even change the quality of it. So stupid. Dang it. Doot doot doot. Now you know I'm a robot. An evil robot from the depths of hell. Come on. Let's get it right there. Oh, God. All right. A truly taxing job. It feels really awful to be laughing in between these terrible, terrible stories. Oh, my God. Ha, 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 ha. Anyways. Oh my God, right away it's awful. Right away the first sentence is awful for this one. And I'm laughing about Duchess D2. I feel bad before I even start reading this terrible sentence that's coming up. Oh my God. Since you sound like Siri, can you turn off my lights and make some more spooky? Yeah, it is. Here, let me unplug it and plug it back in. Hold on a second. How about now? Same. Hello. Are we still Duchess D2 or did we progress into the natural state here? Let me see. I can hear myself, I think. D2 beep boop. No, it's still echoey, isn't it? All right. So this is just how it is now. This is our life right now, and we just have to move on. Okay. Oh my gosh. Anyways, a truly taxing job. Now it's gonna be really hard to stop laughing. Ha 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 ha. I guess I can read the story with my cold, dead robot heart. I had 2 children trapped in a house fire. Oh, God. Mom and the family ran out of the house, leaving the kids inside. The fire had engulfed the home and was blowing out the windows through the entire first floor. The mother called 911 and I fielded her call. The panic and despair in her voice. Why did you run out of the house without your kids? Like, there's nothing. I would not leave the house without my kids and pets. Seriously, I would probably get burned alive because I wouldn't leave with anyone inside. The panic and despair in her voice, the screams pounding on the door that locked behind them when they ran out of the house, the screams of pain as someone is being burned while trying to get back into a fire-filled house. The urgency in the voices of those firefighters and police as they finally found the bodies and rushed them to the hospital. Knowing that there was nothing more that could be done while on the phone with the screaming, hysterical mother was hard to do. I wanted to drive there and help too. Wanted to cry with her. Wanted to yell and scream and ask God why. Wow. A truly taxing job is trying not to laugh from Robo Duchess. Potato mics. Potato connection. Apparently, potato streaming. Streaming live from Idaho. The potato fields. Oh my God. Why? It's so funny because I live in a town and we're kind of like at the top of a hill, so you would think that like our reception would be pretty good right in this spot. Not, I mean, we have cable Wi-Fi, but like our cell phones, when we first moved here, we couldn't talk on our cell phones inside of our house. We had to go like outside or right like to the front door edge or the back door edge to talk on our phone. Isn't that crazy? So stupid. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Ha 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 ha. Anyways, this one's titled Very Bad Timing. Let's see. I was dispatching an alarm for an unresponsive, not breathing elderly male. Thank God it's not a kid. Haven't half these stories been about children? Phew, Jesus. I get the paramedic first responder there and then the ambulance shortly after. They confirmed that the guy was dead. Literally a minute after that, I heard the voice of the paramedic come over demanding a second ambulance. After that, I couldn't get a hold of him. I assumed that one of the family members of this man who died either had a heart attack or fainted at the news of the death. Got a second ambulance there shortly after and heard from someone else at the fire department I worked out of that it was the paramedic who went down. Turns out he had a heart attack and died on the ambulance. It was very sad and very eerie for me to hear this, especially after someone told me that his last words were spoken to me on the radio. Later that day, we got another ambulance call at the exact same address for a broken arm. It's a day I will never forget. Yeah, no kidding. What does that say? Sounds as bad as the signal I get up near Pigeon River or Lost Lake up north in Michigan. In this day and age, I can't understand why we have problems with signals. I mean, how many towers and satellites are around the world? I know, it's like, you know how people like post, it doesn't matter if it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, TikTok, anything. Look at this amazing footage of this alien or this weird creature in the sea, and it's all blurry and you can't make anything out, and everyone calls it groundbreaking footage. But you can get a picture of a cheeseburger on somebody's lawn from a satellite any given day of the week from Google Earth. But you can't post a decent picture of a robber at a 7-Eleven. Come on. Are you be on the lookout for this man? It's all pixelated. Come on. Oh my god. The hit or miss with the technology is what it is for me. Like, really? That's pretty selective. Huh. All right. Let's see. Impossible situations. This one, back when I first started, there was only one dispatcher on duty for a 12-hour shift. I took a call from a woman that had just been raped and beaten down the street from the police department. She worked at a convenience store, and he smashed a monitor over her head before leaving. I had to put her on hold to answer the other phone line. It was her manager. After he walked in on the aftermath, he left, went next door to a gas station, then called the police. Felt horrible that I had to put her on hold, then rage at the manager for leaving her and thereby making me put her on hold. Wow. The audacity. Lawn cheeseburger. I heard that in Homer Simpson's voice. I won't squirrel out, but I have a funny story about a cheeseburger when I was younger, but we'll just move on from that. We need our personal microchips implanted to give us nonstop signal. Ha 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 ha. I in robot voice. Oh my god. My dog is like, I'm on the couch and my dog's on the love seat and she just farted and it wafted over here. I'm glad, I bet all of you wanted to know that. Anyways, moving on. We are reading 911 dispatcher stories if you're just joining us. If you were wondering where I was, I had COVID. I don't have COVID anymore. Well, I don't think I have COVID anymore. It's been months now. If you're a kid, get out of here. Okay. 4 unforgettable calls. So, oh my gosh, of course. As soon as I try to make it lighthearted, it goes into a deep, deep, dark place. 4 unforgettable calls. The suicides stick with me the most. Here are a few. First one was less than a year on. Get a call from a female who sounded numb. She said she came home from work, found her fiancé hanging from the rafters. She kept asking me, "What do I do now?" I had no answer for her. I just kept repeating that I would stay on the line with her until units showed up. Another call I got from a female who said she just found her friend's boyfriend hanging from the tree out back, and that her friend's kids were sleeping inside, and could we please hurry so they don't have to see him in the backyard. Another one I got from a hysterical man. Found out a little bit into the call, who was yelling at his adult sister, 40s I think, just shot herself in the head in front of their extended family. The reason I bring up his sex is that he sounded like a female and I kept calling him ma'am when asking for him to take a breath so that I could get the information I needed. And I know that some dispatchers won't say sir or ma'am, but that's just how I was brought up. And when he yelled that he was a man, I just switched to sir and kept trying to calm him down to get the information I needed. One that was not a suicide but an OD that always sticks with me as well. Got a call, no one's answering me. Hear an older female voice close by crying and saying, "Please don't leave me. Please don't leave me." And the sounds of the phone brushing up against fabric. And then the line disconnects. The first thought, well, this is one of some DV call. I call back and immediately get the female on the line who said she found her son, adult, passed away from a heroin OD. Hey, Evan the Nerd. You guys remember Evan the Nerd? I read a lot of his stories a long time ago. Found him on Reddit also. And if you joined us late, I found another author, got permission from Bloody Spaghetti, and read his story, Mara. I ran out of time to make a video this week because I was teaching myself something new. The learning curve was a little bit too much. I ran out of time, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, if you're just joining us, we're reading 911 Dispatcher Stories. If you're an underage child, get out of our stream because this is gross grown-up stories time. Or scary story, gory stories. Anyways, moving on. And if you're hearing me echoing, we're making jokes about it. And right now my nickname is Duchess D2. If the echo's still there. Anyways, last words and hysterical father. Two jump immediately to mind. One was an old guy whose wife called because he was having a very hard time breathing. I was asking her questions when she insisted on giving him the phone for some reason. He wheezed a few answers to me before the paramedics got there. They pronounced him 5 minutes later. Right when I said that, my lights flickered in my house. Awesome. Anyways, I still think about how I was the last one he ever spoke to on the phone, and maybe the last one he spoke to, period. The second one was when I was still in training. Sent firefighters to a house fire that was out in the country. Yeah, they meant to type country, but they typed it as county. It was in the boonies, so it took them a few minutes to get there. They found a man there who had got out of the house, but his kids were still inside and he was trying to get back in the burning house. They spent time fighting him, and then police officers showed up and he fought them as well. Both of the kids, who had been playing with a lighter, died in the fire. Oh my goodness. Terrified woman, this one's really short. Domestic disturbance. Woman locked herself in her bathroom, husband on the other side of the door with a gun. He had barricaded himself inside the house. All my guys were in standoff outside that house. That poor woman was terrified. And every time he started banging on that door, I just knew he was going to break through and get her. Lasted at least an hour. They got him alive. That's surprising to me when I say, yeah, that's surprising to me. Let's see, this one's titled One Letter Mistake. If you're just joining us, we're reading 911 Dispatcher Stories. Hysterical elderly female. She had just woken up and found her 78-year-old husband unresponsive. Get the priority information. I ask if he's cool to the touch. She panics even more, yelling uncontrollably. I bring her back and start providing her CPR instructions. Keep in mind that as soon as I have general assessment of what kind of emergency I'm dealing with and confirm the caller's location, the appropriate units get dispatched. Our workstations consist of two PCs, the PBX phone system, and a dispatch terminal. The county maintained a blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to start that sentence right over. So sorry. Okay. The county maintained a database of all the valid residential addresses that would pre-populate on the dispatch terminal. The local phone companies maintained their customer caller records that would display on the PBX PC because oh my god, because time is of the essence during emergencies. Whatever can be made more efficient and quicker is. There is a key you could hit and transfer the address information from the caller ID to the dispatch terminal, shaving seconds off the calls to start dispatch times. If someone called and the address was not yet available on the county database, the system would attempt to find the closest match. So we are approaching the 9-minute mark, and I start to get the uh-oh feeling. I look at the map, and they are not that far away from the fire station. First responders should have already been there. By this point, she has given up on the CPR, exhausted. I turn on the secondary speaker to the fire radio frequency just in time to catch the paramedic on the ambulance request from the dispatcher. Radio, can you have the caller confirm the address? We are out at the address you provided and there's no emergency here. My heart sank. I interrupt my caller's devastating sob by asking her, "Ma'am, I need to confirm that you are at this address." It's at this point where I realized what I had done. The caller ID information matched exactly that was transferred to the dispatch terminal with one exception: road, not drive. I ended up sending an ambulance to the wrong address because of my lapse in judgment. The caller's address was not in the county database, but the closest match was, and it was located on the opposite side of the county. And I could have sworn they matched it before I sent the caller over to be dispatched. As soon as I realized the error, I corrected the address and dispatched the correct units. I hang up the phone at 7:02 a.m. when EMS arrives on the scene. 17 minutes after she woke up and called me for help, I still feel like that slight lapse in judgment on my part was the reason that someone died. As soon as I made it into the car, I lost it. I killed him. The next shift, everyone saw how much it took a toll on me. Everyone offered words of encouragement, saying how there wasn't anything that you could have done. He was 78, blah, blah, blah. That day, I got my first official corrective action written up for failing to confirm the caller's location. My first official screw-up in over 6 years. I became afraid of the phone and would drag myself and be the last one to answer. I quit 2 days later. Yeah, that would be very stressful. Hey, creeper! Ghosts or squirrels are biting the wires again. You see what happens when you take 4 months off? You can't talk, and when you do, it sounds like a robot, and the ghosts are coming. Ha 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 ha. Too many letters for the PBX. Yeah, you're right. Making a blah 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 blah. Oh my god, my dog farts. Usually she poops on our walk, and she didn't poop on our walk today. She's probably gonna fart all night long. Oh my god. Screams of self-immolation. Oh no. If you're just joining us, we're reading 911 dispatcher stories. If you're a kid, get out. This is for grown-ups. Get out. Took a call for a guy who lit himself on fire. Starting off awful. A sheriff deputy was serving a vacate order when the guy getting served decided to wrap himself in a blanket, dump kerosene on himself, then light himself on fire. Worst part is that he was still alive when the fire was put out. He was still breathing for another few hours before passing on. Luckily, I did not see the guy. I only heard the screams when talking to the deputy. Oh my god. That's terrible. Maybe the guy was cold. I'm checking IDs. Kids leave. Shit. I never as a parent, I never blamed the content for what my kids were consuming. That's my job. And it's our job to get weird in here. All right. This one's titled Good Intentions Gone Horribly Wrong. Was working a minor traffic accident involving a pregnant female. I had to call her husband to come and get her because the vehicle was not drivable. Officers with her, EMS, and fire, no danger whatsoever. When I called to let him know, he started freaking out. Would not listen to me that she was okay. I explained she was just waiting in a parking lot in the back of an ambulance, just simply needed a ride home. I did my best to get him to calm down and told him where to meet the officers. Maybe 15 minutes later, we get a call. There was a rollover accident on the highway from some sedan speeding down the road, weaving in and out of traffic. Crews get there, do the best they can. Single male driver of the sedan was dead on the scene due to injuries. Needless to say, it was the husband of the lady waiting for the ride home. Moral of the story, slow the F down and think before operating a 2,000-pound death machine. Yeah, why was he so frantic? Like, Jesus. He was lost trying a magic trick, but it went wrong. What? What? Oh my god. What? Phantom callers. So I received a call from an elderly lady who was having trouble breathing. I had taken several calls from her and her husband in the past, so I recognized her voice. I dispatched an ambulance to her residence and held her on the line, trying to keep her calm while the ambulance was responding. Ambulance advises that they had a 15-minute ETA. She lived in a very rural part of West Virginia. I'm talking to her, asking about her husband and how she was doing and just making small talk with her. The ambulance calls in and advises that they are on scene, and I let them know that she is in severe respiratory distress, and I still had her on the line. I let her know the ambulance is coming to the door to go answer the door, and she says okay and hangs up the phone. Pretty normal, right? This is where it gets weird. The EMT and paramedic on scene call back about a minute later and advise that no one is answering the door. We have a sheriff unit who was in the area pulling on scene about the time. The sheriff unit confirmed the address and advised he is breaching the door to make access to the PT. 5 minutes go by and the paramedic on scene radios in asking who the caller was. I advise it was the elderly female who lived at the residence. He tells me that he's going to call in and needs to speak with the supervisor on shift. We get him over to the supervisor, and the supervisor confirms the information that I gave him and what's going on. Apparently, the elderly female had been dead for a while and was already in full rigor mortis. They thought it was wrong on the caller ID, but the dispatchers played it back and confirmed that it was the female who called. The ambulance transferred to the hospital. We get the same calls in disbelief from the doctors. So I took a call from a ghost. I mean, but did you? Did you though? He was trying. Okay, it was the burn victim. There's a lag in like the chat, so I don't know which story you're commenting on. Some things I can guess. Ooh. Upper layer of skin burns away and the raw nerves until you hit the subcutaneous tissue, muscle, bone, in like 6 layers total. Oh, yeah, that's why they're shivering, right? And then the shock sets in. That's usually what kills them, or an infection. Did not know that about burn victims. I learn something new every day. Yeah, that's what we're here. We're really here to educate people on horrible, horrible things. Would you believe you die from sheer shock before? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. This one is titled, okay, there's 3 more on this one. An unexpected horror. So the worst call I've ever had was a series of calls. We took a couple calls about domestic at an apartment building. normal he said, she said stuff. They get out there and the lady was moving out away from him into a new place and he was upset about it. Police ask him to leave and he does. Evidently, after he leaves, she calls him to talk. Fast forward a few minutes and the guy from the domestic calls us. He says he's talking to his ex-wife, heard a gunshot, and the line went dead. He thinks his wife shot herself. So we get police and everyone rolling back that way. They get there and she's fine. Nothing is wrong. But she did hear a loud noise. As soon as they relay that to us, I get the call. 2 townhouses down. While all that was going on, a mom walked into a bathroom and found her son just after he had shot himself in the head. She's inconsolable, but I do my best. The police response is quick because they're already there. But I'll never forget her screams or her husband's tears. It wasn't even related to the first calls. The medics went in once the scene was secure and deemed it injuries incompatible with life. Who knows what that mother saw, but it sticks with me to this day. Oh, God, that's terrible. My name is Mac and Tosh. Oh. Okay, this one is Into an Inferno, so it's another fire one. 911 dispatcher, supervisor for 13 years. Worse was when a lady escaped her burning house and called 911 to report it, and that her husband and daughter were still inside. What the fuck? The number one rule for us is to get you out and keep you out. She went back in and died along with her family. It was only a few days before Christmas. That one messed with me for a while. I had one girl who spoke perfect English. She told me that she had been at a party and was arguing with her friends and wanted the police. Suddenly she started speaking in tongues, chanting. It was likely drugs. Cops never found her, and this was at a time just before Phase 2 wireless and triangulating wireless calls was a thing. Oh, location. I had a funny one the other day. I worked in a college town and sometimes restaurants have security at night. I take a 911 call from a restaurant manager because security personnel were fighting each other. Awesome. That's super helpful. Calling from a house with no phone. This is the last one on this list of stories. Got a dropped call from a house that has no phone. We get a lot of phantom calls from vacant houses, usually due to malfunctions with the phone lines or phone company. Anyway, we got a drop call from a house with no phone, so officers went to make checks. The house was vacant. Right before they left, they look over at the property next door and see someone who apparently committed suicide hanging in the garage. Oh, Christ. That's just the worst. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That's not good. What was this one? There's another list after this one, too. We're going to read hospital stories, or are you guys all set? We've been doing this for we've been doing this for over 2 hours, or 2.5 hours, but really you've only been listening for 2 hours because of my audio malfunction. The entire 911 call was captured on video, positively chilling. "911 call captured on video?" I must be missing something in the chat. There must be like a thing there. Let's see, what were we listening to before? It was psych ward stories, right? And then we were going to go to the hospital stories? Or do you guys want to hear late night convenience store workers share their creepiest customer stories? We'll just go to that one. Why not? I already saved them. Might as well listen. Might as well read them, eh? Did that copy it? Shoot. Okay, copy and paste. I should do this like this from now on. If I ever do this again, definitely do it this way. Put it on my iPad and read it from there. Doesn't mess with the computer as much. Or so I thought. If I still have a robot voice, that's probably why. How is my voice? My voice is fine. I think my lungs is the issue. You know, COVID and all. Ever been ghost hunting or been anywhere haunted? Yeah, was just thinking about all the places that I've been that something weird has happened. Um, for sure. I'd like to go ghost hunting. I'd like to go into every time I see like, there's the channels where they find those houses where people just left and they left everything there. I am obsessed with that. It's like a time capsule, but it's someone's house, and I'll never understand. Like, they'll leave behind like their like a piece of their kid's clothing or like something they drew for school, or I don't know. Maybe I save everything that's like that. We have a lot of like those big totes of schoolwork, just totes and totes of it up in our attic. I just can't get rid of it. Like, I know that some people throw all that stuff away, but I keep all of it. Hey, why are you online when I'm out? I'm sorry, I'll leave it up, but I'll have to put a timestamp in there because the first half an hour there's no audio. Let's see. Probably caught on the side of the live stream of the kid with the shotgun. Oh, got ya. Little do we all know you are becoming a cyborg, and that's why you're robotic now. Oh, it must be still be echoing. All right, so if you're just joining us, let's see here. We are now going to read Late Night Convenience Store Workers Share Their Creepiest Customer Stories. We've read 911 dispatcher stories, psych ward stories, teacher stories, and we read a story from a Reddit author named Bloody Spaghetti, who I did let know that we were live streaming, and I read at the beginning, which I'll have to find the timestamp and put it in the comment section so someone doesn't sit there and be like, there's no sound if they listen to it back. Oh, jeez. You gotta go potty again, T? I let my dog outside again, so you guys are just going to have to walk with me with the computer. Hey, maybe if this happens again, this will fix the audio. Yeah. Read the comment. Yeah, but when they say, make a noise, give me a sign, and the ghost does, they get scared. Okay, so the most annoying thing ever is when you're watching a ghost show, and, all right, Ghost Adventures, I'm talking to you, and they go, dude, after everything that happens, and then possibly miss out on tons and tons more evidence. Like, maybe if you would just be quiet for a couple more minutes, you would get way more evidence. Just, that drives me crazy. Cats, is he all? Did I miss anybody? If I missed anybody, I'm really sorry. Fingers crossed. I'm going to open my garage and turn on my garage lights, so yeah. Hey. Did it fix the audio? Do I sound normal yet? Yeah, it's super annoying. Oh, great. Oh yeah, when they say, dude. I think my favorite one is, dang it, it's Jack Osborne and Katrina Weidman. I know I'm probably saying her last name wrong. They have a ghost show, or a ghost hunting show, or whichever. I really like that one because they're like really quiet and try to be as quiet as they can be so they can get as much evidence as possible. 2 things on my bucket list. I want to fight a ghost, as in fist fight, and win. What's the other thing on the bucket list? How do you fist fight a ghost? How is it possible? Ghost makes noise. Zach and crew get excited. Ghost says, fuck this chaos. I'm out. Doesn't respond anymore. Yeah, they freak out and the ghost's like, geez, I thought I was going to scare you. You guys are way too hyped up. Lay off the energy drinks. Huh. I still want to go to Zach's museum. Like, that's on my bucket list right there. Before I die, I want to see that. Okay, so now we're back in the living room. So it should sound kind of normal. Did it fix it? Do we sound robotic again? Does it sound normal? Is anything normal? That is so annoying. All right. This is late night convenience store workers share their creepiest customer stories. I feel like the stories aren't scary when they add creepiest customer stories. And I used to, like, when people would tell stories about Karens and retail stores, I used to think it was entertaining until I had to beat them off during COVID. And this is before I switched jobs and didn't even have COVID yet. Long story short, maybe I found the little glitch there. Did I fix it? Still somewhat Duchess D2. Dang it. I liked when Katrina had that one show with the Ghost Adventures guy that got let go, Nick. So I don't know what happened to that situation because it was never explained, but I do like her show with Jack Osborne. So I really love, and they really do find like some. It just came out of my head when I said that. Sounds good. Okay, so Creeper, you have two things on your bucket list. One is to fist fight a ghost and win. What's the other thing on your bucket list? Ray Stantz in Ghostbusters getting a blowy from a specter gave me a fetish. Did you, okay, so first talking about that, did you see that Ghost Adventures where Zach gave a ghost a rose and then he laid on the bed thinking that he could get some ghost romance going because it was supposed that one of the ghosts had like been getting amorous with male guests. Portals to Hell. Yes, yes, I love that show. I really like her and I really like her take on it. She's very respectful. All jokes aside, I think that you should be respectful. It's not a game. And definitely don't go, dude, did you see that, dude? Meanwhile, Sasquatch is in the back and like puts his hands up like, forget it. I'm going to go scare someone else because you guys are idiots. But I still want to meet Zach, so yeah, I'm never going to meet those people, so it doesn't matter. Fist fight a ghost and win. Please record it. Alright. Alright, so if you're joining us, we're, I think, on our last set of stories here. Late night convenience store workers share their creepiest customer stories. If you're a kid, get out. Therefore, it is plausible to punch a ghost. Oh. I mean, you should see if you can lucid dream and still a potato. Coming to you live from the Spud Farm. Beep boop beep boop bop. Alright. This one's titled Keep My Eyes Open. Keep my eyes open. I had a guy come into the gas station where I work. Obviously on drugs. But I have a lot of regulars that are addicts, so most aren't violent, just a little weird. So he wanders around the aisles, occasionally looking over and staring at me for 10 seconds or so each time. After the last customer leaves, he comes up and pulls out a small pocket knife, the Swift Army knife kind. Looks at me and says, I was supposed to do something very bad to you, but I decided not to, I think. All the while opening and closing his knife. Robbing me is one thing, but this guy just directly threatened my life. He gives me the knife, just hands it to me. Tells me to hold on to this for me. Looks around for 15 seconds and asks for it back. Obviously, I shouldn't give it back to him. This dude just threatened to murder me. But this guy is around 6'3", 200 pounds, lean muscle. He could have killed me with his bare hands, so I just gave it back to him. and he tells me to keep my eyes open and leaves. Awesome. Great night at work. Can you sign my guest book? Jesus, I think I would come up with a reason. She said, still potato. That's the most Michigan thing I heard this month. Ghost Girl Diaries is hopefully going into production. Oh. Who is in Ghost Girl stories? Ghost Girl Diaries. Is this like a ghost hunting show, or is it like a written and produced type of thing? Not a written show. A scripted show. That's what I meant. Oh, Lord. Back to what I'm supposed to be doing. Saved by a cabbie. I work night shift at a gas station. During the weekdays, it's pretty quiet. Usually only the truckers and taxi drivers who pop by for coffee and sandwiches. But one night, I was talking with one of the cab drivers. Car drives into the lot, parks, and sits with its floodlights on, bright, aimed toward the glass. Kind of weird, but maybe the guy forgot what light he got on. It happens. The guy finally enters, maybe after 5 minutes of flooding the store with light, and it's obvious he's on something. He's jittery, wide-eyed, looks disheveled, paces around before he buys coffee, and stares intensely at me throughout the purchase. Worth mentioning, I'm 5'2", I'm a girl, I smile friendly to everyone, but I work alone for 8 hours in the dead of night. Eerie guy pays for his coffee without a single word. So I continue talking with the cab driver. But I still feel this guy staring at me. It was very intense and unsettling. Come here, D. Cab guy probably notices this and leans on the counter. Slides his card over while talking a bit hushed that I should call him when I get off work if this guy sticks around, because he's getting creepy vibes from him. Cab guy was right. This guy stuck around at the shop for about an hour till closing, staring at me, until some truckers arrived, and then he left and sat in his car, parked up against the window, staring until closing time. I called the cabbie and he gave me a free ride home. He later told me this waiter had been driving behind his taxi with his lights on full power. Oh, my Lord. Oh. Kendra Leandra, podcast YouTuber. Oh, okay. Swiss Army knife. That's not a knife, mate. That's not a knife. This is a knife. I did that to my stepdaughter, and she literally had no idea what I was talking about, and I felt so old. Anyways. Knife fight over late night burritos. Yes! This is why we're reading these. I worked at a small convenience store in the early 1990s. They had one of those fry delis that had chicken, corn dogs, burritos. You know, those things you should never eat, by the way. Anyway, this particular night I had run out of burritos and chicken. I also shut the thing down and cleaned it all up about an hour before closing. 5 minutes before I was closing up. Oh, excuse me. A guy walked in and asked for some burritos. I told him I was out of them, and was just about to close, and the fryer was shut down. He walked around the store for a minute. I assumed he was looking for something else to buy. And then he came up to the counter, pulled out a knife, and told me that if I didn't cook him some burritos, he was going to stab me. Why did I laugh at that? I'd be like, are you freaking serious? Here's the burritos, cook them yourself. I freaked out, but I told him I had none to cook. Shouldered him the freezer, and I told him I would happily cook him anything he wanted from it, but I was out of burritos. He looked in it for a minute, turned to me and said, "You really are out?" I replied, "Yeah." Then he put the knife away and left the store. Like, the audacity of you saying you're going to stab me if I don't cook you some burritos. Bitch, if you do that to me, I'm going to cook a burrito and cram it in your eye socket until there's nothing left. Don't threaten me with a good time. Kids have no idea the classic films nowadays. That's Mick Dundee waiting for a quick trip to have sushi. That's brave. Please also document that if you eat sushi. Duchess D2 initiating you on sequence. Oh my god. Well, I didn't want to hook up my traditional microphone that I normally use for like recording, so I just used my headset for my old job. Clearly, it's nothing but quality. Anyway, I used to get burritos from 7-Eleven. They're alright. You're brave. You got an iron stomach. Oh my god. Alright, this one's called Locked In. A friend of mine found out during a robbery that the emergency button under the counter just actually locks you in the store with a now panicking armed robber. Why is it so funny to me? His boss later told him that it was to prevent people from getting away. I mean, it did also put in a call to the alarm company, who eventually called the police, but for a good 25 minutes, he really thought he was going to die there. Why am I laughing at that? You have now endangered everyone in there more with your stupid, crappy alarm system. Oh my god. This one's titled, Sir, That's Not Mouthwash. I can't wait to read this one. These are funny. At a Missouri-based convenience store, had a guy in our parking lot doing what looked to be Tai Chi at 1 a.m. He would do the motions, then kick, flip off the side of the building, and go back doing the motions. We told him he needed to stop doing that. Goes to the pumps, takes the nozzle off, buzzes for inside pay, chooses a grade of fuel, splashes it in his mouth, spits it out, chooses another grade, does it again. This is the point where we call the cops. After he decided he was done mouthwashing with fuel, he comes in and just starts loading up with bags and bags of chips and candy bars and a single 12-ounce Bud Light from a six-pack. Half of the stuff was open. Cop gets there, told the guy he had to pay, and then put him in the back of his car. Word from the cop the next day was that he was an extremely disturbed individual and he was admitted to a mental ward. Man, I hope his insides were alright. Yikes. Wow. Trying out the different flavors of gas. That's a new one. 7-Eleven Monterey Jack taquitos are actually decent, and their pizza, Bosco sticks, they had while I worked there for overnights were pretty good too. If it weren't for like psychotic, like people trying to kidnap and murder people in the middle of the night, that sounds like a decent way to make some extra cash. Just hang out and read a book overnight if you can stay awake. I feel like I'd fall asleep though. Everyone get robbed. Oh, I didn't even hear anyone come in. Anyway, friend request denied. I go by my nickname at work and have my real name on Facebook. A customer found and friend requested me somehow. I used to think it was my name on the receipt, but I'm more inclined to think he looked up the business and went through the members, likes, whatever section, hundreds of people, until he found me. He sent me a message that said, "You work at business name. I was there last night." I never responded. Yeah. Yikes. Whew. He's like, wow, this is unleaded. It's like decaf, but it's gasoline. And it's not going to make him go anywhere. Oh my God. Anyways, ecosystem of weirdness. I used to work at a gas station in a really small town. There was this old homeless guy with a weird glass eye that would walk around with an uncovered 5-gallon bucket of pickled pig's feet. Oh. The pig's feet were submerged in this pink juice that would splash all over the place when he walked around. Not to mention that during the summer, this bucket would reek. So one of my first days on the job, he came into the gas station by a tall boy of Bud Ice. I rang him up, and he plunged his hand down into the bucket and pulled out a pig's foot, in which he slammed on the counter. After a bit of back and forth explaining that pig's feet were not a form of currency, he just gave in and let me have, and I just gave in and let him have the $2 beer. I paid for it myself. So about once a week, he would walk in, have this pickled pigfoot Bud Ice understanding. Other customers in line would lose their minds after seeing this deal go down. I'd throw the pig's feet in the woods out back where the stray cats would eat them. It was a whole ecosystem of weirdness. Oh my lord. I feel like that's the direction our country is taking, though. It's like weird stuff is gonna become our form of currency. Like how, like he's like, wow, is this unleaded? Okay, yeah. Had to play music not to sleep through some shifts. Other ones were entertaining as hell. Yeah, I imagine they were. This one's really short. It just says, I once saw a man come in, stare at me for a few minutes, walk into the soda aisle, slowly pour a 2 liter a bottle of Sprite down his pants, and then he left. Oh my gosh. All right, that's a weird one. Let's see. This one's at least got some girth to it. The story does. Wow, that sounded weird. All right, it's titled, And Then Her Duffel Bag Began to Bark. I got in around my normal 11 p.m. time, settled in for a slow night of training with my coworker who was on his last day with the company. Things were quiet, going pretty smooth until around 1 a.m. This guy and I were jamming to classic rock, but turned it off when the crazy lady enters. A small, frail-looking lady in about 20 jackets comes in carrying a duffel bag. She set the bag next to a shelf which sat behind the register. I couldn't see the bag, so at first I didn't even notice that it was behind me. The crazy lady went straight to the self-serve coffee and pulled out a coffee mug from underneath one of her jackets. She seemed out of it, talking to herself, muttering under her breath, but I would be too if at 1 a.m., but I'd be out of it too at 1 a.m., so I let her just do her thing until her bag starts to bark. I'm confused as hell since I didn't see her place the bag down and certainly didn't think there would be a dog inside of it. So my coworker lets the crazy lady know that we don't allow animals inside the store and she'll have to take them outside. Words are as close as I can remember. This is what was said between the crazy lady and the coworker. Lady, but I don't have a dog. Coworker, lady, we can hear it barking. It wants out of the bag. Lady, I'll let it out, but it's not my dog, just my bag. Coworker, well, regardless of who owns the dog, you brought it in, so you have to take it out. Fine, I'll just take my coffee and then go since you don't want me here. Okay, it'll be $1.50 for the coffee refill. Thanks for understanding. At this point, we can see her shaking with rage. Her eyes may as well have rolled back into her head. No, my coffee is always free. No, it's not. All refills of drip coffee are $1.50. But he said I could have it for free. Take it up with the big man, not me. I get mine for free. Who are you talking about? There has just been my coworker and I. Who is the big man? I don't want to say. The man upstairs, he told me. Lady, this is a 1-floor building. We don't have an upstairs. God told me in a dream that I could come here and always have free refills. Are you going to tell God no? At this point, my coworker had enough and just told her to go. But if she came back, we would call the police on her, and I never saw her again. I've never heard of God letting anybody have free coffee. I mean, I got free coffee at church when I would go, but... Oh, wait, okay. Where the fuck was going with that bucket? I've eaten the pig's foot and not acknowledged what I did. Ooh, these are funny and weird. Yo, I may have not been this bright guy. Creeper. By the way, it was Fago. Better been rock and rye. When I was a little kid, I once pretended that I had fancy champagne, but it was cream soda. I drank like an entire 2 liter that way. Drank it out of like my parents' crystal wedding glasses. That was the only thing we had of that was like decent in our entire house. Pickles, pig feet flavored Fago. Ooh, don't give anyone an idea. Callie, I'm about to gather. Don't test my gangster. I'll do it. That's gross. You know what though? I swear there probably is a pickles pig feet pop somewhere. Gross. This one's titled Revoking the Microwave Privileges. When I was an agent of the law, I got a call one night to respond to the Main Street 7-Eleven for a disturbance. And when I pulled into the parking lot, there was a fair amount of people standing around outside. The store manager came up and told me that someone had put a dead skunk in a paper bag, stuck it in the microwave, turned it on high, and left the store. I don't even know what to say about that one. This is a one-sentence one that says 2 different people have tried to lock themselves in our bathroom and tell us that it was their home now. Yeah. One night someone stole all the urinal cakes out of the urinals. Oh, God. Wannabe Judge Dredd. A guy came in to buy beer after hours, told him I couldn't sell it, it was against the law, pulled out a badge and said, I am the law. I called 911 and cops show up, tells me if I can just let it go, I wouldn't have any more problems. I let it go. 2 weeks later, driving home late at night and way over the speed limit, I got pulled over. It was the second cop. He came up to the car, recognized me, and said, slow down, and left. Guess it pays to be, let it go, eh? Whatever. Don't we all? A lady screamed at my coworker until a security guard escorted her out. She screamed over seeing Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie on the cover of a magazine, and apparently she had very strong opinions about them being together. Jesus. Why do you care? And this one's titled, I Am the Eggman. I've never been a store clerk, but I was lucky enough to witness the following story. 7-Eleven, circa 1996. A guy walks up to this surly clerk who seems to work 25 hours a day and asks, do you sell eggs by the half dozen? No, you have to buy a dozen. I only need 6. I don't care. You get 12 or you get 0. Without saying another word, the guy walks back to get his dozen eggs, pays, walks out. Then he throws his 6 unwanted eggs at the store window before driving off. I mean, that was just dumb. That was the last one, too. What kind of 6 person would steal urinal cakes? Oof. Creeper, you're my type of gangster. East Side Ninja. Oh. My daughter's name is Kelly. That's awesome name you gave your daughter. Are you guys, I'm about to lose my voice. Do you guys want to hear more stories? Are you guys done with this crap? I don't know what to do. I'm trying to read the room. Whoa. I found night shift workers are sharing their weirdest encounters after dark, and they really deserve a raise. Dun dun dun. You guys let me know if you're done, if you want to hear more. Because everyone's still here. So I'm just thinking that you might want to hear more. So I'll start reading, and then I'll just watch the amount of people here. And if everyone starts leaving, then I'll just stop reading. All right, so these are night shift workers sharing their weirdest encounters after dark, and they really deserve a raise. Anyways, number 1. Let's see. There are. After this one, we'll call it a night if you guys don't. If you guys want to. Hold on. There are 15 of these. Are you guys down? More stories? Okay, here we go. Let's see here. This one's titled Encountering an Exorcism Victim on Shift. I'm a paramedic working graveyard shift. One night, got called for a situation unknown, police on the way. The lady was around 40 and she just arrived in the country. She was laying on the couch, eyes wide open, pupils fully dilated. There's almost no white in her eye. She's breathing normally, but she's not moving. At one point, she screamed and her body jerked in a way that no living thing should. A friend of hers was with her, and she was the one who called 911. Trying to figure out what happened to the girl and asking a basic medical question, her friend told me that she had been exorcised twice in Colombia before. At this point, I'm a little scared. Since she's not responding, we bring her to the hospital. All of her muscles are so hard that when we decided to take her to our stretcher, we were able to carry her like a plank up in the stairs. She's also tried to scratch my face with her nails, and once every 5 to 10 minutes screamed like something I had never seen before. She went to the psych ward after. Never heard from her again. And 15 years later, I'm still wondering if it was a real demonic possession or just a psych condition. Yeah, I wonder that too. Like, how do you. Because I think that this is something that can happen to people, so I think people like that end up stuck there. Yes, you know what? Will you send me an email, please, Creeper, so I don't forget? Please do. I'll have to write something down. Minimal edits to do anything, but I have a story in the pocket. Cool. Yeah, I really like that story we did before. It's up to you if you want to do more. If you're feeling tired, it's okay. Just come back, but don't leave again. You'll be in trouble. Yeah, okay. So I already started reading, so we're good. I'm gonna need a sip of water. I'm not gonna have any voice left. I don't know how much of that you can hear in the thing, so sorry if it's all ASMR. The mumbling boy behind the counter. It was 3 a.m. Popular Canadian coffee shop. There is one old baker in the back that rarely interacts with me, past the dirty joke or dirtier ditty from his Navy days. Other than that, I'm alone. Not another soul around the area, and I expect it to remain that way for at least an hour or so. I'm boxing up the day old for the homeless shelter when I swear I see something out of the corner of my eye, and it's behind me. I turn, then look down. There's a small child standing there, a native little toddler with a faux hawk staring at me intensely. I'm struck dumb at how absurd the situation is. How did he get behind the counter? I didn't hear the door open or see him come through the counter. I scan the storefront. No one. I yell for the baker in case he has a friend or something visiting that lost their kid. He comes over and, like me, does a double take at the kid and is baffled. The kid starts muttering incoherently. I get him a glass of water and a donut hole, and the baker runs out of the store to get a perimeter of the block. I call the non-emergency line and explain that I have a little kid with no parents. Can't get any information from the boy, just mumbles, and I can't make him out. Police arrive. Baker comes back and says he can't find anyone else in the streets. The guy from the 24/7 corner store says he'll keep an eye out. Police try to speak to the kid and also get nothing but mutterings and half-hearted gestures. They take him away. I see them again for their morning coffee, and they tell me the little guy walked several kilometers from the nearest reservation in the dead of night to my store. He had gotten into his parents' medicine cabinet and just walked out of the house. I'm floored. It must have taken that poor baby hours to get to me. Seeing him behind me like that in the dead of night still shakes me. Spooks me more than the guy that threw a pot of coffee at me. The woman that tried to stab me with a plastic spoon because I refused to give her a metal one. And the dude that waited around for 4 hours hoping to catch me alone so he could teach me a lesson since he didn't have the flavor bagel he wanted. My God. Really? I wish a person would. It's like the same as bake me a burrito. Oh my God. Faux hawk. What a hairstyle. Alright, let's see. This one's called Dead-Eye Stare. Dead-Eyed Stare. I hate recalling this story because I work a night shift at a rehab facility. We have a protected gate with a camera looking down from above and one of those doorbell cameras. In the office, the camera monitor is on one wall and the doorbell monitor is on another. I was doing some paperwork and see this guy walk past, stop for a few seconds, then slowly turn around, walk back and stare up at the camera. And he kept staring. The facility is in a rough neighborhood, so I'm fairly used to folks hanging out around the gate, and I usually ignore it. But the way he was staring was off-putting. Like his eyes and expression were hollow and dead, almost as if he were in deep thought and about to do something horrible. I was pretty sure he was zonked on synthetics. I used the intercom to see if he was okay, but he just kept staring directly at the camera. We have a rule: if it's not hurt or trying to come through the fence, just let it be. No sense in engaging needlessly with somebody potentially hostile or screwing with locals. He stood there and stared at that camera for 2 hours. The same dead-eye expression staring right at me. I did a round and came back to find him gone, which only creeped me out more. Yeah, I need to see the footage of where he went, please. Right now. I want to know where that guy went. Oh, thank you. Broken car with a skeleton crew. Worked a night shift at a large grocery store, one that wasn't open overnight but had a skeleton crew to work the loads and do prep and clean. I worked near the entrance, large glass doors but visually blocked off from the vantage point. Around 3 a.m. I hear knocking on the doors. This isn't completely uncalled for. Usually it's someone coming in for an early shift but didn't have a key card. Sometimes it's someone's food delivery, or sometimes a customer who thinks we're open despite clearly being closed. So I approach the door. It's a man that I don't recognize, wet from the rain. He looks normal enough, but something about him unnerved me. He had that vibe to him, you know the one, where it seems like maybe they're on their way to becoming a full-blown meth head, but for now, they're still managing to get the appearance of functionality. Oh my God. He's in phase 2 of his horrible breakdown of life. He was holding his crap together just enough to appear normal, but the edges were definitely shaky. Anyway, without unlocking the door, I announced that the store was closed, and he told me that he just needed my help because his car was broken down in the parking lot and he needed a boost. I didn't drive, so I told him I couldn't help him. I should have walked away there, but he was out in the rain and I did legitimately feel bad, so I told him I would see if anyone of our few crew that did drive could help him. I did find someone who was willing to help and got the right crew manager involved as well. We went out. Turns out he was parked off a bit from the entrance in a fairly secluded spot, and he had a lady with him. There was a similar vibe with her. Almost, but not exactly normal. It didn't click right away, but I figured they had been hooking up in the car in the parking lot. Maybe left the radio on or lights on and drained the battery. To me, that explained the weird unnerving feeling. They either felt ashamed or guilty, and it was showing through. Anyway, my coworker goes over to help him, give him a boost. The manager and I stay out there with him nearby watching. The two lovebirds keep peeking over at us uncomfortably. After a few moments, the coworker returns from the car and hurries us back inside. We don't see them drive off, which seems odd. We get inside, lock up again, and then the coworker thanks us for staying out there with him and not leaving him alone with them. He also caught on to the unnerving air about them and it made him worried. What worried him more was when it also turned out that there was nothing wrong with their car. Oh. Yeah, it's hard to start your car when you're high and you can't figure out where the key's at. Maybe sit this one out. Oh yeah, Rapture in Reverse. I loved that story. Tall Steve was a real alcoholic that I had to deal with on a regular basis. Tank. My now thankfully ex-neighbor just passed from phase 2 of life breakdown. Oh no. On to phase 3, and honestly something was so off about him. That's awful. Jesus and the Painter. I was once staying late doing some scenic painting in a college campus theater. It was late, pitch black, dark outside, very quiet in the building. A few of us were up on the stage, not really talking, just taking care of business, when suddenly I see out of the corner of my eye something go by very quickly by the open door to the lobby. Then I went by again, and I actually saw what it was. A guy with long hair, wearing pajamas, and no socks or shoes. He was tiptoeing in a very exaggerated way, pulling his knees up very high and grinning like, what the fuck? It sounds kind of funny, but it was creepy as hell. We all made eye contact, and one of the other painters was just about to go shut the door when the dude walked right in. He stood there staring at us for a full minute. You could have heard a pin drop. He threw his arms out to the sides dramatically and said, "I am your savior, Jesus Christ." No one responded. I'm sorry, I'm going to bust on it. No one responded. And he eventually walked out. I guess he was hoping to get more of a reaction. The door was promptly shut and locked behind him, and security called. They were not impressed. Turns out that he was a patient at some of the sort of group home nearby, and he had done this multiple times. I still get creeped out to this day if I'm working in a theater at night, though. I would have asked him if he could help with the high parts of the ceiling with the paint job. It's miracle work over here, man. Trouble in school. I used to work night shift at a middle school. Every night while cleaning out the boys' locker room, I would hear at least one locker slam shut, sometimes more. Ew. I do not like schools at night. It's pretty rare that someone's in a school at night, I guess, unless you're someone that's in a school at night to clean it or something like that. But I always feel like there's a weird vibe in schools at night. I always feel that way. Same thing as a hospital at night. It's the same vibe. Anyways, sometimes hear at least one locker slam shut, sometimes more. This creeped me out when I started, but after a couple of months, I got used to it. So one night while cleaning out one of the girls' locker rooms, I hear a girl scream. I walked out of the locker room, even looked outside the building. Didn't see anybody. Before that, I worked at the high school. I'd randomly hear doors open and close. Nowadays, I work day shift at another school. About a year ago, I just got to the building to begin my shift. It was still dark out. I was turning on all the lights when I walked by the main office, and I heard what sounded like someone ransacking the place. Papers being tossed. I heard what sounded like a table or file cabinet being dragged. I remember my first thought was, man, somebody must have lost something important. And then it clicked. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas break, meaning there was no school. No one should be in there. Took me a second to work up the courage to go in and check it out, and when I did, nobody was there and nothing was out of place. Finally, the last month, I got a call from dispatch at 3 a.m. The fire alarm was going off, and they needed somebody to go turn it off. As soon as I walk in, I freak out. The alarm is blaring, but what scared me was the strobe light that flashes with the alarm. The building was pitch black except every other second when that strobe light lit the halls up. It looked like something straight out of a horror movie when they're looking for the killer. I was half expecting to see someone pop out of nowhere when the hall lit up. Yeah, me too. I thought that's what he was going to say. Yikes. And this is why people should mess with the supernatural. Should or shouldn't? At being in school at night when nobody else is there. Yeah. Weird. And you know what's weird is if I go to a store super late at night or early morning, I love it. No one's in there except for the few people that are working, and I love it. But something about being in a school or hospital at night, I can't wait to leave. Super creepy. No, thank you. This one's titled Personal Space Much? I used to work night shift at a 24-hour Walmart. Customers are nuts enough in the daytime, but they become weird after midnight. Once had an elderly guy come in wearing only a jean jacket and fishnet stockings. Came up to my register and leaned in and asked if we carried anything to get rid of lice. God! Say it from back far away. God! Those plastic barriers all stores have to now protect cashiers, yeah, they need to keep those even after the pandemic ends. I lost count of the times customers got in my personal space to ask about products for fleas, lice, rashes, etc. Ew! I would have been like, for upstairs or downstairs? Jean jacket and fishnet stockings. You know, I would have thought that would have been the problem part of the story, but no. Anytime someone talks about lice, I instantly become itchy. I don't know if anyone else has that. Ugh, yikes. Oh, yeah. Schools at night are a regular theme in horror. There's an indisputable element of the uncanny to spaces teeming with youth, light, and vitality rendered. Yeah. Oh, should not. Yeah, I kind of figured that, Ronnie. Um, this is number 8, The Sound That Woke the DJ. Many years ago, I worked at a regional radio station in the middle of friggin' nowhere, Australia. I was the overnight operator, keeping the overnight playlist running, set up for the morning, do all the manual checks for the next day, and jump on the desk if anything funky happens. I spent a lot of time sitting in what was essentially a tin shed in the middle of a paddock with my dog, shoes off, listening to 50s and 60s music, doing crossword puzzles. That sounds like a dream job. Anyways, except one night when the roo shooters came through. They spooked the kangaroos in the paddock, and one of them jumped head first through our office window. So there's me, barefoot, half asleep, with a 6 foot tall kangaroo smashing through the glass window, blood and glass everywhere. My dog starts chasing the kangaroo. I'm chasing my dog. The kangaroo bounds around the office, knocking shit off desks in the dark, bleeding everywhere. I ran and opened the studio bay doors, and my dog chased it outside, where I'm assuming the poor thing was shot. Then I had to call my boss. Bandit, my dog, was fine. She lived a long and healthy life, occasionally being bullied by her pet cockatiel. That was a weird ending. Didn't expect the ending. Yeah, have you ever seen a kangaroo? They look like they work out. They, oh, everyone makes like, oh, they're so cute. No, you're gonna die. If a kangaroo comes up to you, you're freaking dead. I love night people. There's literally only two types: graveyard shift employees and people on the fringes of society. And they all have good stories. The hand from nowhere. Used to work night shift at Home Depot. I thought Home Depot closed at like 10 p.m. No? Are there places where Home Depot's open 24 hours? I'll have to Google that later anyway. It was nearing 3 in the morning, so obviously. And me and another guy were stocking insulation as well as fixing the bays and some such maintenance. A bunch of big R30s had fallen in their bay, and while I was sorting through them, a friggin' hand came out of the mess and grabbed my arm. I lost my mind enough for not only the guy I was working with to freak out, but also for my boss who was across the store to come and check out the commotion. Turns out a homeless drunk guy had come in the store at some point, and I can only assume before the night crew showed up, and had made a nest in the insulation where he fell asleep. The dude was in bad shape too, like far gone into whatever inebriation we had to call the police to remove him. I was always a little more cautious around the insulation after that, for at least the time the store stayed open 24 hours. It's crazy. I don't know who needs emergency like wood at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, why would you be open 24 hours? Squirrel. That's why I'm a phantom. Dun dun dun. Grim Reaper in the courtyard. I used to work night shift as a care aide in an old folks home. It was already creepy. The home was an old hospital that was converted. Some asshole kept walking around the courtyard after dark, dressed as the Grim Reaper, knocking on doors. It was actually really scary. He ran off from the facility, got a security guard for a few weeks. I'm sorry, but that's hilarious. Can you imagine opening your door and there's a freaking person dressed as the Grim Reaper? I'd be like, alright, that seems about right. Anyways, the birds in the parking garage. Um, Worked a parking garage at the airport, cleaning the top deck, and noticed about 100 ravens all over a truck with a tarp over the bed. Took my flashlight, expecting something awful. Noticed as I got closer the smell and the ravens taking turns going in a hole they had torn open and popping out covered in gunk. Some guy left a broke down beater with a couple animal carcasses in the back to rot. No heads. Oh, I wish you guys could see my face. Checked logs, and the damn truck had been there since November, and it was April, so everything was just thawing and breaking down. Ew. God, yuck. Snowy night with a little bit of fright. So, work in the winter for me is plowing and snow removal. It was late. I'd been out for over 24 hours at this point. Pulled over into a small cul-de-sac with the nearest house being over 100 yards away so I could let the truck stay on so I could stay warm. Six-wheel Mac things loud. As I'm nodding off, there was a very loud bang, and it felt like someone then pulled my driver's side door handle. Luckily, I always lock my truck doors. I immediately threw on every strobe rear headlight and started looking around. I saw absolutely nothing, and it scared the crap out of me. Needless to say, I never sleep anywhere other than lit parking lots now. Yikes. I didn't ever think about that. Like, during a snowstorm, if someone has to be in a plow truck for that long, that's crazy. But we've definitely had storms here where that probably has happened. Yeah, I can see myself doing that as a prank. It's awesome. Clean up an aisle everywhere. I was closing supervisor at a grocery store, and someone managed to crap between the bathroom and the exit doors at 8:59. We close at 9. You'd think, oh, there's literal crap on the floor. Surely people will walk around it. No. Instead, they continue to plow through it, so now there's crap on multiple grocery carts. The exit is scattered with feces. There's crap on people's shoes. There's crap in the parking lot. God. Luckily for me, my less squeamish supervisor working with me that night closing volunteered to mop up the exit and bathroom, which to our surprise had also been crapped on. For the record, human crap makes me immediately gag and vomit when I get a whiff of it, so I ended up puking in the trash next to the crap exit. I mean, at that point, shouldn't you have just barfed on the floor? Just mix it around in there. Just add some extra element to it. Yes. Let's see. I think we've got this one and another one. Yeah, there's two more. Two more, and we're going to call it a night. Let's see. Number 14 is missed call. Did hospital security for about 2 months. It was a small hospital out in the sticks, so we were responsible for removing patients who had passed from their rooms and transferring into the morgue freezer. We had just brought a decedent. I've never heard it described that way, to the morgue, and right before we were about to transfer them to the freezer, their cell phone rang. Granted, pretty tame compared to some stories, but at the time, it gave us a decent fright. What are you going to do? He'll call you right back. Maybe. If he calls you back, let us know. This one's the last one of this. Night nurse during full moon. So I worked third shift as RN on orthopedic floor. Never failed. Every full moon, crazy things happen. One night we had 11 patients and 3 nurses. No CNA. It started with the man who was on oxygen constantly trying to smoke in his room despite hearing the dangers and warnings. Before I could contact the shift manager, I hear a noise I can't describe. One of my coworkers' patients with a rectal tube in had slid out of his special air mattress onto the floor with the rectal tube out. And as she and I are trying to get him back in bed, the phone is ringing. Get him in bed with help of strong security guards' help. Answered the phone, and one of my patients kept calling at 911. She was receiving too much pain medication. When I walked in to check on her, she had climbed post-op 2 knee replacements over the side rail and was all tangled up. That wasn't even the whole shift. Gunshot victim with angry family around past visiting hours literally got yanked by one patient's family member into a room and shoved toward a guy who said they were going to vomit. Of course, before I could grab a bucket, it went all over me. Many mornings I went home with vomit, urine, had a full urinal thrown at me, or worse, somewhere on my person. Always disrobed on my mud porch and immediately showered every morning. Between all those calamities, there were strokes, codes, DNR patients who passed away, even on orthopedic. There's a lot entailed in preparing the deceased patient for family to say final goodbyes, then much more after the family's departure. Not sure why this particular memory is so prevalent in my mind, as there was much worse incidents that happened. I don't know. Ugh. That was one thing that in the nursing classes, I always felt like it was so weird to, because one of the nurse trainings that you have to do each kind of hospital, like you have to do assisted living, full uh, nursing homes, each unit of the hospitals. And the worst thing was they wanted you, like after someone passed, to go in the room. And I don't know if anyone's ever been in a room after a complete stranger has passed, but it felt like you shouldn't be there. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It felt like kind of like you shouldn't be there. Like it's a moment, like they just passed away. They wanted us to wash down the body and prepare it to be moved. And it just felt so wrong. I don't even know how to describe it other than that because it was an entire classroom of 16 and 17-year-old girls we're supposed to like wash this guy down. Ugh. Hey, this was really fun. Thanks for entertaining us. Beep boop beep boop. All right. So we're gonna call it a night. I'll try to put a timestamp for anybody that's listening to this later, because I don't know how long they'd be sitting there until someone until they could notice. Before, when it was like the Google Hangouts, you could see the little circle start to move when someone was talking, so you knew someone was talking. But on here, they don't. That's not possible because it's a different kind of streaming service or software. Excuse me. I almost just sneezed into the microphone, so anybody that has headphones in, please know what I just did to myself so that I didn't blow out your eardrums. And I bit my tongue when I did it. Oh my goodness. Had to do several welfare checks and found several strangers dead. Definitely don't feel right being in the same room. Yeah, no, because it feels like you can feel the difference. I think you'd have to be a completely insensitive person to not feel that feeling in the room. That's for sure. It just feels like something is happening that you can't explain because something is happening. And I'm really glad you're back. Yeah, I'll try to give you guys more warning next time. Always a pleasure to read with you guys too. Glad my voice held out too. Okay. Other than that, I'm gonna say good night. Thanks for listening. I'm gonna link Bloody Spaghetti in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. And I don't know if we can still do this since the Kardashian show's going off the air, but it still feels right to say bye like that just because the way they are dead inside but still like completely idolized by people is super annoying and it makes me want to barf inside. The account of stupidity people can show is scary. Oh, yeah. Yes. All right. Thank you guys for coming and listening. And as always, bye.